Chapter 476. Huff huff. Kuro held the cloud-piercing spear with one hand. He lowered his head and gasped for breath. His pair of eyes that were still somewhat red were firmly staring at the shattered corpse of the Pung Demon Emperor. His face was sickly pale. At this moment, Chinyu removed the spatial restriction around them. Chinyu was also able to guess what Kuro's current state of mind was. He stopped Hofei. After a while he and Hofei flew up together. Chinyu merely patted Kuro's shoulder to console him. Kuro raised his head. He looked at Chinyu, and then looked at Hofei. He displayed a smile on his face. "Big brother, monkey, I finally killed the Pung Demon Emperor with my own hands, and avenged my parents." The trace of worry between Kuro's brows disappeared. All these years, he had been suppressing the hatred for his parents in the depths of his heart. "Haha monkey big brother, I'm feeling a lot more relaxed now. The two of you should also stop worrying," Kuro said to Chinyu and Hofei. Only then did Hofei heave a long sigh of relief. He laughed out loud and said, "Mixed hair bird. When I saw your expression earlier, I didn't even dare to breathe loudly." "Oh, that's right. Big brother said that your final move earlier was the heaven-startling single-stick strike. How come it's different from the one Big Brother used back then? It also seemed to be different from the one I taught you. Furthermore, it appeared to be even more imposing than the heaven-startling single-stick strike that Big Brother used." Hofei had never concealed anything from Kuro. He had demonstrated all of the stick techniques from the inherited forbidden area, and even explained the final move. Heaven-startling single-stick strike? It should be. Kuro suddenly stared at Hofei in confusion. "Monkey, you said that my heaven-startling single-stick strike was even more imposing than Big Brother's heaven-startling single-stick strike. Are you mocking me?" "How am I mocking you?" Hofei had an exaggerated expression of being wronged. This expression of his allowed others to understand that Hofei was indeed joking with Kuro. The same heaven-startling staff was also divided into different levels. Earlier, because of his extreme anger, Kuro had managed to break through the threshold of the heaven-startling single-stick strike and unleashed the heaven-startling single-stick strike. He had directly smashed the Pung Demon Emperor Zhong Yen to death with his cloud-piercing spear. However, Chinyu was different. The Tao contained in Chinyu was much more profound than the Tao contained in the heaven-startling staff strike. Chinyu's heaven-startling single strike seemed very ordinary, but in fact, it had reached the stage of returning to its original state. The last part of the heaven-startling staff was to poke. "Why did you smash it?" Hofei voiced out his doubts. Kuro smiled awkwardly and said, "Well, at that time, how could I still remember the heaven-startling strike? It was only because I was extremely angry that I entered a strange state. Along with my anger, I smashed down at once. The reason why I used smash is probably because smashing him into smithereens would be more satisfying." This was the reason. Kuro and Chinyu couldn't help but smile. "Well then." Chinyu smiled and pointed to the corpse of the Pung Demon Emperor Zhong Yen. The other items of this Pung Demon Emperor could not be considered as precious. However, this inherited golden crown was extremely important. Chinyu extended his hand and received the inherited golden crown. "I've heard about it from the great ape emperor Sun Yuan," Hofei said with a frown. "The inherited treasures of the Dragon Clan and Pung Clan. Only the people from the Dragon Clan and Pung Clan are capable of recognizing them as their masters. At the same time, the inherited treasures are passed down from generation to generation. They absolutely cannot be brought into the divine realm. If someone were to bring this inherited golden crown to the divine realm, then the ancestors of the divine realm's Pung clan would likely not hesitate to kill that person. This is very easy to understand. The seniors of the two clans in the divine realm had spent a great amount of effort to bring this treasure to the immortal, devil and demon realm. It was all for the sake of allowing their descendants to live a bit better. If they were to bring it up, then wouldn't their efforts be wasted? Merely I'm thinking how to handle the inherited golden crown." Chinyu turned around and looked to Kuro. "Xiaohei, give it a try. After all, your father is the Dark Lightning Rock Emperor. Perhaps you might be able to make this inherited golden crown recognize you as its master." Kuro looked to the inherited golden crown. His two eyebrows were knitted together. No, I don't like this inherited golden crown, Kuro said in an extremely resolute manner. Perhaps it was because he remembered the previous master of the inherited golden crown, Zhongyan. Or perhaps it was because he remembered that his parents had died because of this inherited golden crown. In short, Kuro was extremely disgusted by the inherited golden crown. Since you don't like it, then you can return this inherited golden crown to the Peng clan. I do not wish to provoke the seniors of the Peng clan in the divine realm to chase after me for a golden crown that cannot recognize its master. Qin Yu casually tossed the inherited golden crown to the side. As long as this inherited golden crown was in the Jianglan's realm, Qin Yu could take it back at any time. Good, return it to the Peng clan. Hou Fei also expressed his approval. Qin Yu looked to Kuro. Kuro took a glance at the inherited golden crown. After a short moment, he also lightly nodded. The core planet of the Demon Realm's bird clan, the Black Crow Star. Inside the Imperial City, at this moment, some of the Emperor-level experts in the Imperial City had already started to panic. That was because not long ago, the guards that were monitoring the Soul Jade slips in the Imperial Palace discovered that the Soul Jade slip that belonged to the Peng Demon Emperor Zhongyan had actually shattered. A couple days ago, Aoku's Soul Jade slip had shattered. Although it was shocking, it was still not enough to cause the Imperial City to panic. However, the death of the Peng Demon Emperor had truly caused a large number of experts to panic. The Peng Demon Emperor, who possessed the inherited treasure, actually died? Who killed him? Who possessed the strength to do so? In the history of the Peng Demon Emperors, there were only a small number of Peng Demon Emperors that had failed their divine tribulation. As for the rest of the Peng Demon Emperors, they had all managed to enter the divine realm alive. Zhongyan was the first Peng Demon Emperor in history to be killed. Where was the inherited treasure? The preciousness of the inherited treasure greatly surpassed that of the Peng Demon Emperor. If the Peng Demon Emperor Zhongyan had died, then so be it. They could just choose another Peng Demon Emperor. However, if the inherited treasure were to be lost, then the status of the Peng clan would drop greatly. The status of the entire bird clan would also become weaker than the beast clan and the dragon clan. Inside the main hall of the Imperial Palace, a large number of Emperor-level experts of the bird clan were gathered here. Compared to several thousand years ago, the Peng Demon Emperor and his 3 level 8 Demon Emperors from back then had all died. Currently, the strength of the bird clan was much weaker. Everyone, Lord Aoku has died. Now that His Majesty Zhongyan has also died, our bird clan has entered the most dangerous period of time. The most important thing right now is to choose the new Peng Demon Emperor. A white-gowned old man said in a clear voice. According to the old rules, the 2 great super-divine beasts of the Peng clan both possess the qualifications to be the successor. The Dark Lightning Peng King Fanglan is currently a level 5 Demon Emperor. As for the golden-winged Peng King Zhongju, he's merely a level 2 Demon Emperor. Thus, I believe that no one should have any objections to Fanglan becoming the Peng Demon Emperor. This white-gowned old man was also a Demon Emperor with extremely high qualifications and strength. What he said was also backed by evidence. The Peng Demon Emperor was usually the successor of one of the 2 great super-divine beasts of the Peng clan. However, at this moment Zhongju stood out. Zhongju, could it be that you want to sit on the throne? The white-gowned old man shouted. Zhongju smiled and said, I do not oppose Brother Fanglan becoming the Peng Demon Emperor. However, our bird clan's Lord Aoku and His Majesty Zhongyan were both killed by others. Even the inherited treasure was left outside. Without the inherited treasure, how could the Peng Demon Emperor command the entire bird clan? How could the bird clan be convinced? Thus, I believe that the most important thing should be to find the inherited treasure. Brother Fanglan, what do you think? Zhongju's gaze was cast to Fanglan at the corner. Fanglan had his eyes down the entire time. Hearing Zhongju's question, he raised his eyelids. His deep and serene gaze caused the surrounding people to feel fear toward him. Fanglan said coldly, without the inherited treasure, the Peng Demon Emperor is still not the Peng Demon Emperor. After he finished saying that, Fanglan grew silent. Everyone, let's talk about how to find the inherited treasure, the white-gowned old man said with a loud voice. Immediately, the entire palace hall was filled with the sounds of discussion. These bird clan's upper echelon experts were all in a terrible fix for the inherited treasure. After discussing for a long time, they were still unable to come up with an idea. Feng Lan, who was dozing off with his eyes down, heard the clamor of discussion. He couldn't help but frown. He raised his head and glanced at everyone. With a cold voice he said, "Find the inherited treasure?" Even Zhong Yan, who possessed the inherited treasure, was killed by the enemy. Even if we were to find the enemy who possessed the inherited treasure, who would be able to defeat him? Everyone was immediately stunned. However, they all sighed and grew completely silent. Everyone understood this principle. However, they were still discussing it. They merely wanted to try harder. Now that Feng Lan had said it clearly, everyone had given up in their hearts. At this moment, a woman among the emperor-level experts said coldly, "Feng Lan, didn't you say earlier that, without the inherited treasure, the Peng Demon Emperor is still not the Peng Demon Emperor? I presume you were in favor of finding the inherited treasure first, and then confirming the position of the Peng Demon Emperor. What do you mean by saying that now? Have you given up on finding the inherited treasure? Give up." Feng Lan merely smiled disdainfully. He then closed his eyes again and dozed off to the side. He no longer bothered with the others. The group of experts from the bird clan were all looking at each other in the main palace hall. However, no matter what, they were unable to come up with an idea. They could only form groups of 3 or 2. They all started to discuss with each other. They talked about the astonishing strength of the enemy, who killed Zhong Yan, and the consequences of not having the inherited treasure. "It's very lively here." A voice suddenly resounded through the entire main palace hall. In an instant, everyone in the main palace hall grew quiet. Everyone was absolutely silent. At the same time, they turned around and looked toward the entrance of the main palace hall. They saw 3 youths walking in from outside the main palace hall side by side. When they walked past, not a single palace guard went to stop them. These 3 youths were wearing a golden gown, a black gown and a white gown. Although there was no wind, their gowns were fluttering in the wind. The golden-gowned youth had a demonic smile on his face. The white-gowned youth was coldly looking at everyone like ice. Only the black-gowned youth in the middle had a slightly more tranquil and profound gaze. After the 3 of them entered the main palace hall, the imposing aura that assaulted their faces caused the hearts of all the demon emperors in the main palace hall to stop. In an instant, it was as if their hearts were being crushed by a mountain. They had a feeling of difficulty in breathing. "Who are you all?" The white-gowned old man was the strongest among them. He was barely able to resist the oppressive might. "Qin Yu, it's you all?" Zhongju looked at Qin Yu and his 2 brothers in shock. Qin Yu smiled and nodded to Zhongju. It could be considered as greeting. As for Hou Fei, who stood beside Qin Yu, he was smiling in a demonic manner. When Zhong Yan was still alive, this place wasn't this lively. However, now that he's dead, it's even more lively. "We 3 brothers have come here for no reason other than to kill your Peng Demon Emperor Zhong Yan, and then do a good deed, and gift you all the inherited golden crown." After receiving the inherited golden crown from Qin Yu, Hou Fei stroked it a couple times. He deliberately muttered, "Aya, why does the inherited treasure have the appearance of a golden crown?" As he said that, he even kneaded it a couple times. "Stop." Several demon emperors were unable to refrain themselves from shouting. The inherited treasure was the Peng Demon Emperor's crown. It possessed a supreme status in the bird clan. It was even more important than the Peng Demon Emperor himself. And now, Hou Fei was kneading it like a toy. How could they not be angry? "Since you've angered your grandpa Hou, I'm not going to give you this inherited golden crown." Hou Fei's face sunk. He said coldly. Qin Yu, who stood to the side, started laughing. Hou Fei's speed of turning hostile was truly fast. However, the effect was very good. In an instant, no one in the main hall dared to say anything. Even the Peng Demon Emperor was killed. Furthermore, the aura emitted by Qin Yu and his brothers also displayed their frightening strength. It was said that Qin Yu had broken the seal of the Bewitching God Temple's entrance with a single spear strike. This was something that these demon emperors also knew about. Who would dare to provoke these three brothers? Well then, seeing how obedient you all are, I'll give it to you all. Ho Fei tossed the inherited golden crown onto the ground, like he was throwing trash. Huff! That white-gowned old man was the first to react. His body stuck close to the ground and flew rapidly. In an instant he caught the inherited golden crown. Qin Yu and Zhong Ju slightly nodded. They then turned to Ho Fei and said, "Fei, don't waste any more time with them. Let's return." Ho Fei nodded. He then took a mocking glance at the demon emperors in the main hall. After that, just like how they entered, the three brothers walked out side by side. Not a single one of those guards came forward to stop them. After walking out of the main hall for some distance, Qin Yu and his brothers disappeared into thin air at the same time. Huff! Only then did the group of demon emperors heave a long sigh of relief. They all thought in their hearts, "Too frightening. What's wrong with you all?" A demon emperor shouted to the guards outside. "Why did you let them swagger in? Even if you can't stop them, you all should still put on an act." Those guards were covered with cold sweat. One of the guard leaders said helplessly, "Your lordship, it's not that we don't want to stop them. It's that we're simply unable to move." Chapter 477. Jun Luoyu? Ho Fei frowned. He then suddenly realized and said, I remember now. Big brother. You said that you had made two good brothers on the Blue Flame Star. One was Ao Wuming, and the other was this Jun Luoyu. Back then, Qin Yu had merely mentioned it casually. Ho Fei and Kuro did not pay attention to it either. Furthermore, they had never seen Jun Luoyu before. Thus, they were unable to distinguish him using their demon awareness. To be honest, there are truly a lot of experts on the Flame Emperor's side. There are actually 4 level 8 immortal emperors. Ho Fei gasped in admiration. Qin Yu also nodded. Of these 4 level 8 immortal emperors, 2 of them were the Flame Emperor and Jun Luoyu. Who would have thought that Jun Luoyu had actually managed to reach level 8 immortal emperor in a single breath in close to 4,000 years? The title of Genius Immortal Emperor was truly not an empty title. Brother Qin Yu, long time no see. I am Qin Yu. Qin Yu's divine awareness voice transmission directly sounded in the Flame Emperor's mind. At the current level of Qin Yu, there was no need for him to call him Flame Emperor. He could directly call him by his real name. At this moment, the Flame Emperor was chatting with his wife in a courtyard. Suddenly, he heard Qin Yu's divine awareness voice transmission. Immediately, he lost the mood to chat. "Wife, let the servant girls accompany you. I'll go out for a bit," said the Flame Emperor to his wife. At the same time, his immortal awareness covered the entire blazing sun star. However, he was unable to discover Qin Yu at all. "Qin Yu, where's Qin Yu?" Flame Emperor Guansheng immediately recalled a lot of things. The accomplishment of Qin Yu breaking the seal of the bewitching god temple with a single spear strike was enough to wake Flame Emperor Guansheng up. However, the current Flame Emperor still didn't know that the Peng Demon Emperor had been killed by Qin Yu and his brothers. The news of who killed the Peng Demon Emperor was completely sealed off by the Emperor-level experts of the Bird Clan. "Brother Yi Kun, Brother Peng Ding, Qingqing, Brother Luoyu, quickly come to the guest room. Qin Yu is here." The Flame Emperor immediately sent a immortal awareness voice transmission to these people. In the reception hall, the Yin Emperor, Guansheng, and 4 other people were gathered here. These 5 people were the 5 people with the highest authority in the Yin Imperial Palace. The Yin Emperor was the leader, while the other 4 people were second to him in terms of status. In terms of strength, the other 4 people, Jun Luoyu, Yi Kun and Peng Ding, were all level 8 immortal emperors. As for the only female Qing, she was a level 7 immortal emperor. However, Qing had another identity. She was the younger sister of the Flame Emperor, Guansheng. If I'm not mistaken, Qin Yu is here for his father's matter in the Blazing Sun Galaxy. 8th grade immortal sovereign Yi Kun was wearing a white robe. His body was emitting the fragrance of plum blossoms. Wow, Qin Yu, a legendary figure. This time we must take a good look at him, Qing said excitedly. As the only girl among the 5, the other 4 doted on Qing. Qing was wearing a red robe. There were also many accessories on her body. Her long hair was also combed into small braids. There were at least 10 small braids. Qin Yu is indeed legendary. Especially after seeing the information about Qin Yu from Brother Guansheng. I feel even more ashamed. Compared to me, he is more suitable for the title of Genius Immortal Emperor. Jun Luoyu said with a faint smile. Although Jun Luoyu was smiling, he gave people a feeling of vicissitudes. Luoyu. A voice suddenly sounded in the reception hall. The 5 people in the reception hall all looked towards the door. Qin Yu and his 2 brothers had already arrived at the doorstep. This time, Qin Yu and his 2 brothers did not use their aura to oppress people. Last time in the demon realm, the Bird Clan's imperial palace, they did it on purpose. Qin Yu. There was a trace of joy in Jun Luoyu's eyes. I did not expect that after not seeing you for 3,000 years, your strength would far surpass mine. At this moment, Flame Emperor Guansheng, Yi Kun, Peng Ding and Qing Qing were all surprised. They originally thought that Qin Yu had come alone. They did not expect that there would be 3 of them. Most importantly, they were unable to sense the souls of these 3 people. Obviously, the 3 people before them had all surpassed level 8 immortal emperors. Their soul realms were at least level 9 immortal emperors. These 2 brothers of Qin Yu are much more powerful than the last time in the Ridge Peak Star. Flame Emperor was shocked. At this moment, Jun Luoyu instead asked, Qin Yu, if my guess is correct, these 2 ought to be the 2 brothers that you've been looking for. Back then, you wanted to go to the demon realm, to find your 2 brothers no matter what. Never would I have thought that you've actually found them. Congratulations. Jun Luoyu still clearly remembered the days when he was together with Qin Yu and Ao Wuming. That's right. This is my second brother Ho Fei. Qin Yu pointed at Ho Fei. Flame Emperor Guansheng knew Qin Yu and his 2 brothers. However, the others did not. Flame Emperor's younger sister, Qing Qing, smiled and said, So it's the successor of the great ape emperor Ho Fei. However, I see that Ho Fei's strength is not inferior to the great ape emperors. Ho Fei laughed mischievously. Senior great ape emperor has taught me before. However, in terms of strength, I am not inferior to him. This is a fact. He did not give any face to his own elder. This caused everyone present to be stunned. Only Qin Yu and Kuro, who were familiar with Ho Fei's character, could only feel helpless and smile at the side. This is my 3rd brother Kuro. As Qin Yu spoke, he looked to Jun Luoyu. Brother Luoyu, didn't you all say that there were absolutely no high-level divine beasts or super divine beasts from the Eagle clan that ascended in those 200 to 300 years? Jun Luoyu also recalled that when he, Qin Yu and Ao Wuming had just arrived at the Hidden Emperor Star, and were together with Demon Emperor Meng Hong, Qin Yu had asked Meng Hong and Ao Wuming about his brothers. At that time, Ao Wuming and Meng Hong were both certain that there were absolutely no high-level divine beasts from the Eagle clan that appeared in those 200 years. As for the Eagle clan, there were simply no super divine beasts. Qin Yu, I did not say that. It was Meng Hong and Big Brother Wuming who said that. What, is your 3rd brother a high-level divine beast, or a super divine beast? Jun Luoyu asked in surprise. Ho Fei laughed and said, Mixed Hair Bird is a variation super divine beast. The expressions of Flame Emperor and others immediately changed. Although Flame Emperor had interacted with Qin Yu and his brothers on the Ridge Peak Star. However, they still did not know about the fact that Kuro was a variation super divine beast. They only knew that the Peng Demon Emperor and Kuro had a grudge against each other. The banquet has been prepared. Brother Qin Yu, Brother Ho Fei, Brother Kuro, please, said Flame Emperor with a smile. During the banquet, they exchanged toasts and became much closer to each other. Only from the banquet did Qin Yu come to know about one thing. The Flame Emperor was actually a power formed by the union of several second-rate powers. The Flame Imperial Palace on the surface was the Flame Emperor. However, in reality, there were 5 palaces. These 5 palaces belonged to Flame Emperor Guansheng, Yi Kun, Peng Ding, Guanqingqing and Jun Luoyu respectively. The 5 of them possessed equal status, and were headed by Flame Emperor Guansheng. When I reached level 8 Immortal Emperor, I left my seclusion place, and went to the Devil Realm, to deal with Devil Emperor Shui. Although I managed to successfully kill Devil Emperor Shui, the Blood Devil Emperor Shui Tianya continued to pester me. In the Blood Devil Emperor's territory, I killed my way back to the immortal realm. Jun Luoyu and Qin Yu were discussing the matters of these years. Only now did Qin Yu come to know that Jun Luoyu had finally untied the knot in his heart. Luoyu, that Shui Tianya is also a level 8 Devil Emperor. How did you manage to kill Devil Emperor Shui in his territory, and then kill your way back? Qin Yu was slightly puzzled. Since the banquet started, Guan Qingqing, who had frequently chatted with Qin Yu, and was filled with curiosity toward Qin Yu, giggled and said, "Big brother Qin Yu, big brother Luoyu is very powerful. He possesses a high-quality divine artifact. No matter how many tricks that Blood Devil Emperor had, he would still not be able to stop Big Brother Luoyu. High-quality divine artifact." Qin Yu looked puzzledly at Jun Luoyu. Back then, Jun Luoyu's longsword didn't seem to be a high-quality divine artifact. "Oh, that was something that I obtained by luck after I came out of seclusion, and was on my way to the Devil Realm," Jun Luoyu said with a light smile, as if he didn't care about a high-quality divine artifact in the slightest. Qin Yu, however, was still puzzled. High-quality divine artifacts, even in the outer regions of the Bewitching God Temple, were extremely rare. How could this Jun Luoyu be so lucky to obtain a high-quality divine artifact? Furthermore, he didn't obtain it in the Bewitching God Temple. Unable to understand, Qin Yu didn't think too much about it. "Luoyu, how did you get together with brother Guansheng, and even become one of the 5 great leaders?" Qin Yu said jokingly. Yin Emperor Guansheng, who was at the side, opened his mouth and said, "Back then, the reason why we established this force was so that we wouldn't be suppressed by Cyan Emperor and Mystic Emperor. We also don't have any ambitions. As long as people don't provoke us, we won't do anything to them. The 5 of us together also don't have much of a difference in strength. It's just that I usually go out to deal with some matters. That's why outsiders say that I'm the leader of this force." Only then did Qin Yu come to a realization. No wonder Jun Luoyu would join them. Most likely, he also knew that there was no burden in joining this force. "Luoyu, where's Yenner? Why don't I see her?" Qin Yu asked puzzledly. Back then, Jiang Yin was Jun Luoyu's follower. Wherever Jun Luoyu went, she would go there. Logically speaking, Jiang Yin should also be in this fiery sun star. Why couldn't he see her? Yenner has something to do. She left for a period of time, Jun Luoyu said very calmly. It was just that the trace of concern contained in the depths of Jun Luoyu's eyes could be felt by Qin Yu. "Big brother Ho Fei, you 3 brothers are really incredible. Talk about your matters." Seeing that Qin Yu did not pay much attention to her, Guan Qingqing started to talk with Ho Fei. Ho Fei was very excited, and talked nonstop in one breath. The banquet went on for a rather long time. When the banquet was about to end, a guest walked in from outside. "Yenner." Jun Luoyu looked at the girl outside in shock. Then, a trace of joy appeared in Jun Luoyu's eyes. He stood up and walked over. "Yenner, why are you only here now?" Jiang Yan's eyes were a little red and swollen. She did not seem to notice Qin Yu. Jiang Yan said helplessly, "Big brother Luoyu, this time I went to see Grandma. Grandma said that she wants me to go back and cultivate properly. This time, I'm afraid I'll have to leave for a very long time. Very long." Jun Luoyu's eyebrows twitched. Then he smiled lightly and comforted her. "Go back and listen to your grandmother's words. Cultivate with peace of mind. Only when your strength increases will you be able to protect yourself better, and protect the things you need to protect." Jiang Yin nodded. Suddenly, Jiang Yin inadvertently glanced at Qin Yu, who was not far away. Her heart was shocked. Qin Yu also looked at Jiang Yin in shock. The moment he saw Jiang Yin, Qin Yu was completely shocked. What, Jiang Yin is a level 1 immortal emperor? Bullshit. With the current cultivation of Qin Yu's divine awareness, and the assistance of Lu Xing's tears, Qin Yu could clearly sense that Jiang Yan's soul cultivation was even higher than his. If his guess was correct, she should be a peak deity, high-level deity. To personally see a high-level deity in the immortal devil and demon realm, especially when this person was someone with ordinary strength that he knew in the past. Needless to say, this kind of shock was understandable. Jiang Yin couldn't possibly have reached high-level deity in merely a few thousand years, right? Furthermore, she said earlier that her grandma wanted her to go back and cultivate properly. High-level deity should cultivate properly. Qin Yu was completely suspicious. Back then, it was reasonable for him to think that Jiang Yin was a level 1 immortal emperor. With his soul's level at that time, if a high-level deity wanted to disguise their strength, he would not be able to see through it. Pitiful Jun Luoyu, even now, he still did not know the strength of his little sister Yin. This Jiang Yin is actually a high-level deity. Then what about Granny Yin Hua? Qin Yu frowned. Thinking of this, Qin Yu's mind immediately filled with many scenes. For example, how respectful the Cyan Emperor was toward Granny Yin Hua. For example, on the Ridge Peak Star, when the Peng Demon Emperor attacked, his attack was easily broken by Granny Yin Hua. Even for Qin Yu, with his current strength, his speed was still inferior to the Peng Demon Emperor's, unless he controlled the space to suppress the Peng Demon Emperor. However, at that time, Granny Yin Hua did not suppress the Peng Demon Emperor's speed. Instead, she relied purely on her speed to surpass the Peng Demon Emperor. Furthermore, the Cyan Emperor who was able to easily bind the Peng Demon Emperor, Emperor Yu and them. Even when facing Granny Yin Hua, he was still that respectful. And now, even Jiang Yin had to address Granny Yin Hua as Granny Yin Hua. There was no need to guess the strength of this Granny Yin Hua. Qin Yu, don't reveal my strength. The moment Jiang Yin noticed Qin Yu, she immediately sent him a divine awareness voice transmission. Jiang Yin was able to determine with her divine awareness that Qin Yu's soul's level was extremely high. It was only a bit weaker than her. Even if she were to disguise herself, at Qin Yu's level, he would still be able to sense it. Especially the shock in Qin Yu's eyes. It revealed one thing, that Qin Yu had managed to see through her true strength. I won't tell you. However, you must have a good chat with me later. Qin Yu also sent her a divine awareness voice transmission. Sure. Jiang Yin said straightforwardly. As Jiang Yin sent a divine awareness voice transmission to Qin Yu, she began to chat with Jun Luoyu. Big brother Luoyu. According to what Granny said, I will be training for a very long time this time around. I reckon that by the time you ascend to the divine realm, I would still be in seclusion. Jun Luoyu's brows were raised. His expression slightly changed. Immediately after, he comforted her. It's all right. If fate wills it, it wouldn't be too late for us to meet again in the divine realm. Oh. Jiang Yin nodded a bit sadly. She then turned around. When she saw Qin Yu, she had a pleasantly surprised expression. Ah, big brother Qin Yu, you're also here. Chapter 478. Qin Yu and his brothers were arranged to stay in a quiet courtyard. Big brother, we've already given them enough face by attending their banquet. After the banquet is over, we can just leave. What are we still doing here? Ho Fei muttered. Qin Yu smiled helplessly. Fei, do you think I don't want to leave? But I have to go see someone in a while. Someone? Ho Fei and Kuro looked at Qin Yu at the same time. Big brother, if you want to see someone, just go. What's the point of waiting here? With a thought, Qin Yu set up an ordinary seal around them, isolating them from the sound. Because this person is a god, Qin Yu said slowly. A god from the god realm? No matter how good Kuro and Ho Fei's mental state was, they still widened their eyes. Qin Yu smiled faintly. No need to make a fuss. It's not like you haven't seen experts from the god realm. With Uncle Lan's strength, I'm sure he's one of the top experts in the god realm. Qin Yu said confidently. Kuro and Ho Fei both thought of their weapons. The cloud-piercing spear and the black stick. It looked dark and ordinary like wood or iron. But in terms of hardness, Ho Fei and Kuro didn't find anything that could damage the cloud-piercing spear and the black stick. Uncle Lan is very strong. Kuro nodded. Uncle Lan is my master. He's so strong. But he didn't give me any powerful techniques. He only gave me weapons. Really? Ho Fei muttered, seemingly dissatisfied. Qin Yu suddenly stood up. Ho Fei and Kuro immediately stopped talking and looked at Qin Yu. Kuro asked in a low voice, Big brother, did you go to see that god? Qin Yu nodded. Then, He lifted the restriction and prepared to leave. Who is that person? Ho Fei asked. As for Qin Yu, with a movement of his body, he disappeared into thin air. Only one voice resounded in Ho Fei and Kuro's minds. That deity's name is Jiang Yan, remember, do not reveal her identity. Jiang Yan? Ho Fei and Kuro knew the answer, and the girl at the banquet naturally appeared in their minds. The two of them couldn't help but look at each other. On the mountainside of a brown mountain on the fiery sun star, there was a man and a woman. Qin Yu carefully sized up Jiang Yan in front of him. This Jiang Yan was very beautiful and cute, and her big eyes were extremely lively. Qin Yu never expected that such a cute girl would be someone from the divine realm. Jiang Yan, I truly never expected that you're someone from the divine realm. You've deceived me, Luoyu, Big Brother Wu Ming and the others. Qin Yu said with a smile. Jiang Yan frowned in confusion. With a trace of teasing she asked. Qin Yu, your soul's level is so high and you also know my identity. Are you not afraid that I'll kill you to silence you? Silence you? Qin Yu smiled, but before he could say anything, Jiang Yan continued. Your soul's level can only represent your comprehension of the spatial laws. However, the energy within your body is not divine energy, nor is it heavenly divine energy. Thus, although you possess a soul's level of cultivation, your body's strength is too weak. If I really wanted to kill you, I reckon that a single move would be enough. Really? Qin Yu looked at Jiang Yan with a smile. Jiang Yan was slightly startled. Immediately after she said, the premise is that you cannot hide in the Jianglan's realm. Once she said those words, Jiang Yan covered her mouth. She knew that she had let it slip. As for Qin Yu, he started to smile. Jiang Yan, stop hiding. Tell me, how do you know about the Jianglan's realm? There are very few people in the immortal devil and demon realm that know about the Jianglan's realm. The people that know about it are all people that I completely trust. It is simply impossible for you to know about it from the immortal, devil and demon realm. Tell me the truth. What relationship do you have with Uncle Lan? Qin Yu looked to Jiang Yan with a smile yet not a smile. Qin Yu did not wish to make things difficult for Jiang Yan. However, Qin Yu was also not afraid of Jiang Yan. In terms of strength, Qin Yu possessed the high-quality heavenly divine artifact Waning Snow. His attack power was extremely astonishing. So what if she was a high-level deity? After all, according to what the master of the bewitching god temple said, heavenly divine artifacts were normally possessed by heavenly deities. As for a high-level deity, even if her luck was good and her status was honorable, it was likely that she would only possess a low-quality heavenly divine artifact. Jiang Yan sighed helplessly. Qin Yu, you're truly amazing. Well then, I'll tell you some things. I do indeed know Uncle Lan. That's because he is my uncle. Uncle? Qin Yu asked in confusion. That's right, blood uncle. Jiang Yan said seriously. Qin Yu was unable to refrain his shock. Uncle Lan was actually Jiang Yan's blood uncle. In that case, their relationship was extremely close. Uncle Lan ought to be Jiang Yan's father's blood brother. Then who was Granny Yinhua? What was the relationship between Li Er and them? Ever since the shocking battle that took place in the God realm all those years ago, Uncle has become somewhat cold and sentimental. However, from that time on, Uncle had also become extremely concerned about my big sister. Jiang Yan frowned. She appeared to be somewhat puzzled. She continued. I also do not understand. In the past, although Uncle had treated me, my big sister, and the other disciples of the same generation pretty well, it could not be said to be doting. However, after that heaven-shocking battle, Uncle had become extremely concerned about my big sister. He did not allow anyone to bully my big sister. Uncle's strength is extremely powerful. Although he is a maverick within the clan, even my father would not provoke him. Jiang Yan sighed and said. Not long ago, Uncle had refined an extraordinary treasure. Jiang Yan looked at Qin Yu enviously. Qin Yu, did you know? That treasure had taken many years of hard work from Uncle. Furthermore, he had used many precious materials to refine it. My father wanted Uncle to gift that treasure to the entire clan, and make it one of the clan's greatest treasures. He was even willing to exchange many of the clan's most precious items with Uncle. However, Uncle was unwilling. I presume that you've already guessed what it is. It's the Jianglan's realm. Jiang Yin sighed and said. Qin Yu involuntarily clenched and released his fists. He clenched and released his fists again. Uncle seems to have no worries. If there's anything that he's worried about, then it would be my big sister. It's truly strange. Why is it that after that heaven-shocking battle, Uncle began to treat my big sister like his own daughter? Jiang Yin said in confusion. Jiang Yin. Qin Yu suddenly spoke. Amen. Jiang Yin looked at Qin Yu. The big sister that you're talking about, is she called Jiang Li? Qin Yu's gaze was firmly fixed on Jiang Yin. After hearing so much, if Qin Yu still couldn't guess, then he'd be an idiot. Jiang Yin said in surprise. You're truly smart. That's right, my big sister is called Jiang Li. Li Er. Qin Yu muttered. After so many years, Qin Yu's heart had already become as hard as steel. However, when he heard about Li Er, and recalled the memories of being together with Li Er in the mortal realm, even if his heart was as hard as steel, it still melted and became soft. Seeing Qin Yu like this, Jiang Yin lowered her head slightly and said in a low voice, It seems that you're worthy of big sister doing that. Can you tell me some information about Li Er in the God realm? Qin Yu suddenly raised his head. His gaze was like a sharp sword shooting towards Jiang Yin. The deep desire in his gaze was clearly exposed. Jiang Yin pondered for a moment, then nodded and said, I'll tell you a little, although Granny doesn't allow me to say too much. Qin Yu's heart moved. Granny doesn't allow her to say too much, so it should be that Granny Yinhua. Qin Yu, you guessed right. My big sister is Jiang Li, which is the Li Er that you met back then. Fortunately, you didn't forget. If you dared to go back on your words, not to mention Granny, I'd be the first to teach you a lesson and let you have a taste of my methods. Jiang Yin fiercely waved her arm. Qin Yu couldn't help but smile. Compared to her big sister, Jiang Yan's temper was cute and wild, while the other was gentle and quiet. They were completely different. And I'm quite satisfied with your current performance. My big sister, Sai, let me tell you a strange thing first. In the God realm, a girl's appearance isn't important. Even her temperament doesn't count for much. After all, when one's soul reaches that realm, everyone has their own characteristics. No one is ordinary. Under normal circumstances, very few girls are pursued by many people. Jiang Yin pouted her mouth. But Big Sister is different. Ever since that shocking battle, Big Sister actually received countless pursuers from the God realm. Many. Qin Yu couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Seems like there are quite a lot of love rivals. Suddenly, Qin Yu thought of something and said, Yen you mean before that so-called shocking battle, there weren't many pursuers of Li Er? More or less. Jiang Yin nodded and said, although there were people pursuing Big Sister, there weren't many, just a few. A few in the God realm is still within the normal range. Qin Yu immediately became suspicious of that shocking battle. But now wow, a large number of the God realm's elites are frantically pursuing my big sister. Those without status should stand aside. Those without strength should stand aside. If you don't have status and strength, then don't even think about it. If you don't reach the heavenly deity level, you won't even have the face to speak to my big sister. Jiang Yin sighed and said. Qin Yu opened his eyes wide. He had already anticipated that there would be a lot of pursuers of Li Er. However, after hearing what Jiang Yin said, it was even more frightening than he had imagined. Those who pursued my big sister, which one of them isn't an extraordinary character in the God realm? Among the pursuers, even the weakest one is a low-level heavenly deity. However, even though he's only a low-level heavenly deity, his status is extremely high. Furthermore, he's extremely exceptional in terms of artifact refinement. Jiang Yin sighed and said. Qin Yu slowly exhaled. Pressure. It was as if a mountain was pressing down on his heart. Qin Yu was able to imagine what sort of people were pursuing Li Er. The weakest among them was a low-level heavenly deity. Clearly, without the strength of a heavenly deity, one could forget about pursuing her. Furthermore, there were some among them that possessed extraordinary power and status. However, don't be discouraged. What sort of person is my big sister? Firstly, she has our clan behind her. Secondly, my uncle is resolutely standing behind my big sister. Not to mention others. Even my father would not be able to force my big sister to be with anyone. Jiang Yin said with a beaming smile. Qin Yu was unable to refrain himself from feeling grateful toward Uncle Lan. With Li Er being a weak woman, even if she had the heart to resist, if she did not have Uncle Lan's support behind her, it was likely that she would not be able to. Big sister has already announced to the outside world that she wants to focus on training and does not wish to discuss matters of marriage. Using this method, she has rejected countless outstanding talents of the divine realm. Although there are still a group of people with high status and strength pursuing her, I know that the person that my big sister likes is you. Jiang Yin pretended to be mature and patted Qin Yu's shoulder. Future brother-in-law, you must work hard and not disappoint my big sister. Qin Yu didn't know whether to laugh or cry when Jiang Yin patted his shoulder. However, that brother-in-law had caused Qin Yu to feel very comfortable in his heart. The Jianglan's realm is extremely precious. Truly, even in the divine realm, it could be considered an exceptional treasure. Even if the craftsman god Cheho was still in the divine realm, with his comprehension of the spatial laws, it would still be impossible for him to craft the Jianglan's realm. Jiang Yin sighed and said. Qin Yu's eyes shined. Craftsman god Cheho? Could it be that master of the bewitching god temple, Cheho Yuan? According to what Cheho Yuan said, his artifact crafting ability was second to none in the divine realm. He was indeed qualified to be called the craftsman god. Qin Yu did not ask about Cheho Yuan. That was because he did not wish to expose the fact that he had inherited the bewitching god temple. This would be an important weight for him to move about unhindered in the divine realm. Jiang Yin, you said that even that craftsman god was unable to craft the Jianglan's realm. Is this Jianglan's realm truly that precious? Qin Yu was somewhat curious about the preciousness of the Jianglan's realm. Jiang Yin glanced at Qin Yu. Qin Yu, I advise you to return the Jianglan's realm to Uncle Lan when your strength is sufficient. This treasure could be considered to be Uncle Lan's #1 spiritual treasure. I truly do not understand why he would be willing to give it to you. Even if you are my big sister's future husband, it is still not enough for my uncle to give the Jianglan's realm to you. Qin Yu's expression changed. The Jianglan's realm was actually Uncle Lan's #1 spiritual treasure. This news had truly shocked Qin Yu. Spatial divine artifacts were extremely hard to craft. However, they were called spiritual treasures. Evidently, the Jianglan's realm ought to be an acquired grandest spiritual treasure. For Uncle Lan to be able to successfully craft it, he must have spent a great amount of effort. Back then, when Uncle Lan gave it to him, he had casually said that it was a divine artifact. It would appear that Uncle Lan was worried that he would not accept the gift because it was too precious. Giving away his #1 spiritual treasure to someone else? Who could compare to this boldness of his? However, this action of his revealed the concern Uncle Lan had for Qin Yu. Qin Yu was unable to refrain himself from feeling boundless gratitude toward Uncle Lan. Chapter 479. While listening to Jiang Yin speak, Qin Yu deeply memorized every single word that Jiang Yin said. Furthermore, he was dissecting every single word that Jiang Yin said in order to find out what kind of important information was hidden within them. As he analyzed and researched, Qin Yu deduced many things. Don't say too much. If you say too much, it's easy to slip up. When Jiang Yin was speaking, she remembered the strict orders that Uncle Lan, Granny Yin Hua, and the others gave her, that she was not to say anything important. However, Jiang Yin still unintentionally revealed some hidden information. She didn't pay much attention to it when she said it, but Qin Yu guessed it. Yin you said that your sister was pursued by a large number of people after the heaven-shocking battle. It was also at that time that she received Uncle Lan's care and concern. Can you tell me exactly what sort of battle this heaven-startling battle is? Qin Yu asked. Qin Yu's intuition told him that all the changes should be related to this heaven-shocking battle. Heaven-shocking battle. Of course it's a very impressive battle. It's just some powerful experts of the divine realm fighting together. What's so special about it? Jiang Yin didn't have the slightest bit of enthusiasm towards the heaven-shocking battle. Which experts? Qin Yu immediately asked. Even if I told you, you wouldn't know. How many people do you know in the divine realm? Even I don't know many of them, let alone you. Jiang Yin curled her lips and said. Qin Yu nodded. Qin Yu wasn't in a hurry to guess about this heaven-shocking battle. After all, he didn't know about some of the famous people in the divine realm, or the various forces in the divine realm. It wouldn't be too late to slowly investigate after reaching the divine realm. But in Qin Yu's heart, what he wanted to know the most was, where exactly was Li Er's home in the divine realm? Looking at Jiang Yin, Qin Yu solemnly said, Yin, can you tell me where your home is in the divine realm? Qin Yu only needed to know the name of a place. Once he knew the name, as for the exact location, it would be easy for him to find it after reaching the divine realm. Jiang Yin looked at Qin Yu with a faint smile. Qin Yu, hee, I knew you would ask. Unfortunately, I can't tell you, Jiang Yin said with a smile. Qin Yu could not help but frown. Yin, I know that this might be an order given to you by Uncle Lan or Granny Yin Hua. However, I still hope that you can tell me where Li Er lives. You should understand the urgency in my heart. Qin Yu stared at Jiang Yin. Jiang Yin felt a little uncomfortable being stared at by Qin Yu. How could she not know about the relationship between her sister and Qin Yu? The dreamy Jiang Yin even thought that the relationship between a young man from the mortal realm and a woman from the heavenly realm was very romantic. Jiang Yin was about to refuse. Qin Yu immediately said, Yin, it's been so many years. From the mortal world to now, I've been working hard. I've never given up in my heart. I just want to know your sister's current address, Li Er. I understand. Qin Yu let out a long sigh. Uncle Lan and the others did not let me know Li Er's address, because they were worried that I wouldn't be able to resist running over after reaching the heavenly realm. Instead, I would be in danger, right? Jiang Yin nodded silently, and only looked at Qin Yu. Qin Yu smiled bitterly. Can't resist? Indeed, I've been hiding it in the deepest part of my heart for so many years. And I didn't even have the chance to contact Li Er. Do you know how much I want to hear Li Er's voice? Unfortunately, I can only hear Li Er's voice in my dreams. Qin Yu closed his eyes. Even though thousands of years have passed, when I close my eyes, Li Er's past smiles and frowns clearly appear in my mind. It's as clear as if it's engraved on my soul. Unless my soul is scattered, I will never forget it. Qin Yu suddenly stepped forward, grabbed Jiang Yan's shoulders with both hands and stared at Jiang Yan. Yin, I'm asking you, I'm begging you. Don't worry, I won't be reckless. After so many years of wandering, I'm no longer that ignorant fool. I know how to endure, I know. Qin Yu's tone was firm, and his eyes shone brightly. As if influenced by Qin Yu, Jiang Yin took a deep breath and slowly said, All right, I'll believe you. Qin Yu couldn't help but feel a trace of ecstasy in his heart. Then he pricked up his ears and listened carefully. Jiang Yin slowly said, My sister is still in the clan. Our clan is located in the divine realm. Jiang Yin said until here, but no more voice came out. Qin Yu looked over, and was shocked to find that Jiang Yan's mouth moved a few times, but no voice came out. Yin, you're too reckless. A voice sounded, with a silver flower hairpin on her head. Granny Yin Hua, who looked like an amiable old lady, walked over with a walking stick. At this moment, Qin Yu felt that the space around Jiang Yan's body was completely distorted, as if she was isolated from the outside world. Jiang Yan immediately acted coquettishly and begged for mercy. Although Qin Yu couldn't hear Jiang Yan's voice, he could guess from Jiang Yan's coquettish appearance. I'll let it go this time, Sai. Granny Yin Hua said helplessly. Thank you, Granny. The distorted space around Jiang Yin immediately returned to normal. Qin Yu was sure of one thing. Granny Yin Hua's control over space far surpassed his. It was so much so that Qin Yu, relying on Lu Xing's tear, with his current soul's level, was unable to sense the slightest bit of Granny Yin Hua's aura. Qin Yu knew that with the assistance of Lu Xing's tear, his consciousness had barely reached the level of a low-level heavenly deity. From this, he determined that Granny Yin Hua's strength was stronger than a low-level heavenly deity. Yen you ought to know how serious this matter is. If this foolish boy were to truly be unable to endure it any longer, and go to your clan to find Li Er, and if this news were to leak out, and this foolish boy were to lose his life then. Granny Yinhua shook her head and sighed. Jiang Yin did not dare to say anything. Your sister is very gentle and quiet. However, her heart is extremely unyielding. No one can force her to do something she has decided on. With your sister's temperament, if this boy were to die, even if she doesn't die with him, I reckon her temperament would still change greatly. Granny Yinhua was a bit serious. I've watched you and your sister grow up. No one knows you and your sister's temperament better than me. Hearing this, Qingyu, who stood to the side, was moved. This Granny Yinhua ought to have raised Jiang Yan and Li Er as they grew up. Qingyu, you ought to be able to guess my identity. That's right, I've raised Yen and Li Er. Whether it's eating, sleeping, training, or playing, they are all under my care. In my heart, I've already considered them as my own granddaughters. Granny Yinhua coughed and said, Granny. Jiang Yan pulled onto Granny Yinhua's arm, swayed back and forth as she spoke in a spoiled manner. Enough, stop messing around. Granny Yinhua pacified Jiang Yan. Then she turned around and looked to Qingyu. Qingyu, Li Er wouldn't hide anything from an old granny like me. I know about the matters between the two of you, and I also know what Li Er is thinking in her heart. Thus, I support Lan Lady Lan's plan. Hearing this, Qingyu remembered the 3 words Lady Lan. What did Lady Lan represent? Did it merely represent that in Li Er's family, Uncle Lan's position was higher than Granny Yinhua's? Thus Li Er's true identity, where exactly Li Er is and everything else. Yen and I will not tell you. When the time comes, Lady Lan will naturally tell you. Granny Yinhua said. Qingyu nodded. Qingyu was able to determine from Granny Yinhua's tone and gaze. This sort of person was simply not someone that could be persuaded by emotions. I know that Lady Lan thinks highly of you, and thinks that your future is limitless. She firmly supports you being together with Li Er. Haha. Qingyu, let me tell you, if it wasn't for Lady Lan, it would be impossible for Li Er to go against her father's orders. Granny Yinhua said with a light smile. Qingyu did not say anything, and only quietly listened. In Lady Lan's eyes, your future is limitless. This time, Yen and I have come to the immortal devil and demon realm, in order to see exactly what sort of person Lady Lan thinks highly of. However, the first time I saw you, I was rather disappointed. Granny Yinhua spoke bluntly. Qingyu continued to listen in silence. He also understood why Jiang Yan had paid so much attention to him the first time they met. So it turned out that the 2 of them had come to the immortal devil and demon realm to see him. I simply cannot see what you have that is worthy of Lady Lan's attention. Granny Yinhua spoke very seriously. Granny Yinhua's words were unpleasant to hear. Qingyu couldn't help but slightly frown. Thus, during the Battle of the Reef Yellow Star, Emperor, you used a great formation array to trap you. I just want to use this to see your potential. If you can't even break through this level of difficulty, then you'll have to give it a try. If you couldn't even break through this level of difficulty, there would be even more obstacles in the divine realm. How could you possibly break through them? Granny Yinhua smiled. However, from the looks of it now, Lady Lan is indeed worthy of being Lady Lan. Her eyesight is indeed much higher than mine. At this moment, the gaze that Granny Yinhua looked at Qingyu with was like a mother-in-law looking at her son-in-law. She was extremely fond of him. It's not just a little high, it's much higher. Granny Yinhua sighed endlessly. No matter how I think about it, I cannot understand. With your talent, it's only been 3,000 plus years since the last time we met. Your soul realm has actually reached such a level. It's almost at the high-level deity realm. It's easy to cultivate one's strength, but hard to cultivate one's soul. Generally, from level 9 Immortal Emperor to the low-level deity realm, one would need an extremely long period of time. From the low-level deity realm to the mid-level deity realm, it's even more difficult. Under normal circumstances, from level 9 Immortal Emperor to the peak of the mid-level deity realm, one would need several tens of millions, close to 100 million years. But it's only been 3,000 plus years. This talent, I have never seen such a frightening speed in my entire life. Granny Yinhua shook her head and laughed at herself. To think that I had thought that your talent was not much. Lady Lan's eyesight is truly vicious. As Granny Yinhua spoke, she walked in front of Qinyu. Patting Qinyu's shoulder, Granny Yinhua said kindly, with such a frightening cultivation speed, if you were to continue, I think after several tens of thousands of years, you would be able to reach the heavenly deity realm. With your frightening talent, and with Lady Lan's help, it's still possible for you to be together with Li Er. Qinyu nodded his head. Frightening talent. However, even now, I am still unable to see how high your talent is. Granny Yinhua thought to herself, how is it possible for your soul to reach such a level after merely 3,000 plus years? At this moment, Qinyu spoke. Qinyu has firmly remembered everything that Granny has said. I wonder if Granny still has any pointers for Qinyu. Qinyu was still very respectful towards Granny Yinhua, who had brought up Li Er. Granny Yinhua suddenly said, speaking of pointers, I just remembered a very important matter. Granny Yinhua's expression grew serious. She said solemnly, Qinyu, you must remember one thing. Qinyu was shocked by Granny Yinhua's appearance. He immediately pricked up his ears and listened attentively. Is there a very important matter? Jiang Yin, who stood to the side, muttered in confusion. Granny Yinhua said to Qinyu, from your current strength, the arrival of the divine tribulation is not far away. The matter that I am going to tell you is related to the divine tribulation. Qinyu, remember, when you are undergoing the divine tribulation, do not use the Jianglan's realm. Furthermore, do not use any of your trump cards either. Trump cards. Qinyu looked to Granny Yinhua in confusion. Qinyu had already decided that he would undergo the divine tribulation together with Kuro and Ho Fei. At that time, the three brothers would be able to ascend together. When the three of them undergo the divine tribulation, the might of the divine tribulation might be much stronger. However, Qinyu was still very confident in his own strength. Why can't I use it? When I undergo the divine tribulation, I will definitely be in a hidden place. If I were to use the Jianglan's realm, no one would know. What are you afraid of? Qinyu was a bit confused. Granny Yinhua shook her head and said with a light smile, someone knows. People from the divine realm. Qinyu, let me tell you. The divine realm is not as simple as you imagine it to be. Could it be that you think that the divine realm only has some extremely powerful experts and is divided into some powers? Qinyu was slightly stunned. No, the divine realm involves the operation of the universe and involves countless cosmic spaces. In short, the divine realm is very complicated. It is not as simple as you imagine it to be. If you do not wish to stir up trouble, do not use it when you are undergoing the divine realm. Granny Yinhua said. Qinyu now understood. If the treasures that I use are too powerful, then I reckon that I would be coveted by the major characters of the divine realm. Qinyu thought in his heart. However, even if I do not use powerful treasures, undergoing the divine tribulation is still very easy. Qinyu was incomparably confident. Well then, that's all I have to tell you. You only need to remember two things. First, when undergoing the divine tribulation, hide all of your trump cards. Second, do not recklessly go and find Li Er. When your strength is sufficient, Lord Lan will naturally help you. After Granny Yinhua finished speaking, she looked to Jiang Yan. Yan, we also need to return. This time, we have been in the lower realm for quite some time. If we do not return, then it will be troublesome. Amen. Jiang Yan nodded. She then looked to Qinyu. Qinyu, I will return to the divine realm. You must work hard and not let big sister wait for too long. Biting her lips twice, Jiang Yan softly said, Big brother Qinyu, if big brother Luoyu encounters any trouble, I hope that you can help. Please. Qinyu lightly nodded. Don't worry. Granny Yinhua and Jiang Yan smiled as they bade farewell to Qinyu, after which, the two of them flew towards the horizon. In the sky, a large golden door suddenly appeared. Just like that, Granny Yinhua and Jiang Yan stepped into the large golden door and disappeared. The large golden door also disappeared. Blazing sun star. On this brown mountain, Qin Yu was the only one looking up in the mountain wind. After which, Qin Yu's figure moved and disappeared. Chapter 480. Although the temperature of the fiery sun star was extremely high, it would drop to an extremely low level in the middle of the night. Right now it was in that cold stage. The cold wind was bone-chilling. Hou Fei and Kuro were standing outside the door, quietly waiting for Qin Yu. Of course, this cold wind did not affect them at all. Mixed hair bird, big brother said Jiang Yin is a god. Did I hear wrongly? Hou Fei was still in disbelief at this time. Such a cute girl. How could she be such a terrifying expert? Kuro calmly looked and said, everything will be known when big brother returns. Qin Yu's words before leaving puzzled the two for a long time. After a while, Qin Yu's figure appeared in the courtyard. Big brother. Hou Fei and Kuro spoke at almost the same time. Qin Yu glanced at his two brothers, slightly nodded and said, I also know what you two want to know. All right, I will tell you some things. Qin Yu did not think of hiding anything from his two brothers. He set up a restriction around the house. Qin Yu and his two brothers discussed in the house for an entire night. Qin Yu told them most of the things, such as the relationship between Li Er, Uncle Lan, Granny Yinhua and Jiang Yan, as well as some things about the divine realm. Qin Yu also told them some of the information he obtained from the bewitching god temple. Qin Yu also told them. Hou Fei and Kuro were also shocked by the information Qin Yu told them. At the same time, they also had more information about the divine realm. Early the next morning, Qin Yu and his two brothers bid farewell to the Flame Emperor, Junluoyu, Qing Qing and others, and left the Fiery Sun Star. They headed towards the Qin family's location. Fiery Sun Star System's Virtue Residence Star. Virtue Residence Star. Near the city of Virtue Residence Star, there was an endless mountain range. There were several palaces in picturesque disorder, as well as some elegant wooden houses. This was where the disciples of the Qin family lived. The three brothers could now travel at a much faster speed. In less than a day, Qin Yu and his two brothers arrived at the mountain range of the Virtue Residence Star. After entering the mountain forest, Qin Yu and his two brothers walked in the forest. They could casually see some animals or beautiful plants. The spring water was clear, the flowers were red, the grass was green, and there were some wild animals in the forest. It flew through the forest, over the pool, over the waterfall, and along the path inside the mountain. Qin Yu and the other two arrived at the bottom of a canyon. Originally, this canyon could only be exited from the top. However, the Qin clan still opened up a passageway in the mountain. After passing through this passageway, they stepped onto a winding path with lush green grass beside it. The entire canyon was shrouded in white mist because of the cold pond inside. As long as one walked along the winding path for a few kilometers, one would see a stone tablet, Qin Manor. At this time, they could see the luxurious palace made entirely of elemental holy ore. This Qin Manor was actually the Qingyu Immortal Manor. However, the Qingyu Immortal Manor was quite famous. The Qin clan only wanted to live a peaceful life, so they only gave it this name. On the way, Qin Yu saw quite a few disciples of the Qin clan. These disciples were all incomparably respectful towards Qin Yu. Nearly all of them addressed Qin Yu as Third Exalted Elder, Third Highness. This voice caused Qin Yu to involuntarily look towards the source of the voice. Third Highness. When Qin Yu was young, the majority of the Qin clan members had addressed him as such. Qin Yu raised his head and looked carefully at the middle-aged man in front of him. You are. Third Highness, you might have forgotten me. That year, when Third Highness was sent to Misty Villa by the king, I was one of the members. In addition, I stayed at Misty Villa for several years. Third Highness, your hard work caused me to feel ashamed. Thus, I trained diligently and finally became the personal guard of the king. Later, I was fortunate enough to be bestowed with a cultivation technique by the king. The middle-aged man said respectfully. Only now did Qin Yu understand. That year, when he went to Misty Villa, there was indeed a large group of people who followed him. However, when he was young, he spent most of his time training and didn't interact much with these soldiers. The only ones he knew were the leader of the group of guards and some of the gatekeepers. As for the others, Qin Yu wasn't very familiar with them. At this moment, one scene after another appeared in Qin Yu's mind. It was the scene of him being together with those guards. When he was young, he didn't have his father by his side, but he had some guards by his side. That group of people, how many of them are still alive? What about the vice captain of the guards, Uncle Wang, who often joked with me? Furthermore, those two big men guarding the gate. What's their name again? As Qin Yu spoke, he suddenly stopped. His gaze had also become somewhat dim. Qin Yu understood that it was already good enough that one or two of those people were still alive. Among those old brothers, only I am still alive. The other brothers are all dead. After all, it's really difficult to succeed in cultivation. Among so many people, only 2 have reached the Xiantian realm. I'm one of them. But the other brother lost his life in the Qianlong continent when he was fighting against a prehistoric demonic beast. Qin Yu slowly let out a long sigh. What's your name? Qin Yu asked. That middle-aged man said respectfully. I'm Chiu Wei, an ordinary guard of the 2nd Squad of Guards of Misty Villa. You are here. At this moment Qin walked over. There were indeed quite a few people strolling leisurely outside Qin Yu Immortal Mansion, or exchanging pointers with each other. Qin also came out to relax, and just happened to see Qin Yu and his 2 brothers here. Hou Fei and Kuro immediately saluted. Hou Fei Kuro pays his respects to Uncle Qin. Qin nodded with a smile on his face. Fei Xiaohei, you 2 go rest at your residence first. Xiaohei, you should also go accompany your wife Hei Tong and them. Qin Yu said. Kuro and Hou Fei said their goodbyes and left. The former Qin Yu Immortal Mansion, the current Qin Mansion. Although it was an enormous immortal mansion, there were quite a few people living inside. Hou Fei, Kuro, Hei Tong, Guofan, and a large group of people had already come out from the Jianglan's realm, and were living with the Qin family. Little Chiu, you can go rest. Qin said to the middle-aged man beside him. Yes, your highness, said Chiu Wei respectfully. At the same time, he also saluted to Qin Yu and left. Chiu Wei was Qin's personal guard. Even now, that group of personal guards still addressed Qin as your highness. Qin looked at Chiu Wei's departing back inside. Back then, I had several 100,000 troops under my command. However, only several tens of them managed to survive until now. Time is the greatest killing weapon. Qin Yu understood what his royal father meant. There was another reason why there were very few people who were able to cultivate. In the mortal world of the Hidden Dragon continent, one could not casually teach cultivation techniques. Thus, one could only choose to teach cultivation techniques to those with good aptitudes, and those close to one's heart. Are you still going out this time? Asked Qin. Qin Yu smiled and shook his head. No, if there's no accident, I might stay here until the arrival of the Divine Tribulation. The arrival of the Divine Tribulation? I've already inquired about the Divine Tribulation. From the history of the immortal, devil and demon realm, ordinary level 9 immortal emperors would have to wait for several tens of thousands of years to reach the arrival of the Divine Tribulation. We father and son should still be together for a long time. Qin couldn't help but reveal a trace of gratification. Qin Yu helplessly shook his head and said, Royal father, could it be that you've forgotten about the Cyan Emperor? After the Cyan Emperor reached level 9 immortal emperor, he only needed a few hundred years to undergo the Divine Tribulation. Level 9 immortal emperor? However, there's news that the Cyan Emperor deliberately concealed his strength and announced that he was a level 8 immortal emperor. The majority of the people who saw the Cyan Emperor undergoing the Divine Tribulation all thought that the Cyan Emperor had already reached level 9 immortal emperor, who said that he only waited a few hundred years. Asked Qin. Qin Yu shook his head and smiled. It seemed that ordinary people still knew too little, and were only rumors. Royal father, the Cyan Emperor had actually always been stuck at level 8 immortal emperor. The first time I came to the Crescent Moon Bay, he had successfully reached level 9 immortal emperor. After that several hundred years, he underwent the Divine Tribulation on the Ridge Peak Star. Qin Yu said the truth. After being stuck at level 8 immortal emperor for several tens of millions of years, The Cyan Emperor also possessed frightening strength. Oh, you mean, you will also undergo the divine tribulation soon? Said Qinda with a frown. Qinda really didn't want to be separated from Qinyu so early. After all, the father and son had only just reunited. Once Qinyu reached the divine realm, he didn't know how many years it would take for him to reach the divine realm. That's right. I estimate that the divine tribulation will descend in several hundred years. Qinyu slowly said. Qinyu had a basis for saying those words. Outsiders said that the date of the divine tribulation was uncertain. However, Qinyu knew that the arrival of the divine realm was regular. The higher the soul realm, the faster the divine tribulation would arrive. For example, the Cyan Emperor whose soul had reached Soul Jin, Dan only needed several hundred years before his divine tribulation arrived. As for the level 9 Demon Emperor Super Divine Beast Phoenix, Emperor and I, Hidden Emperor Lin Yin, and the others, they had all reached level 9 Emperor level for a very long time. However, they had yet to undergo the divine tribulation. The speed of their divine tribulation was clearly much slower. As for Qin Yu's Soul Jin Dan, it was very likely that he was stronger than the Cyan Emperor. For him to not undergo the divine tribulation faster than the Cyan Emperor was already rare. Yet he wanted to stay in the immortal devil and demon realm for several tens of thousands of years. Several hundred years is also good. Qinda could only say that. Seeing his royal father's expression, Qinyu made a resolution in his heart. In the short period of time that he would be staying in the immortal devil and demon realm, he would definitely properly spend time with his royal father and his brothers. The peaceful days continued. There was no hatred, no killing. There was only familial affection, friendship. Just like that, Qin Yu and his brothers spent 80 years or so. Today, someone came to the Qin mansion. The great ape emperor Sun Yuan, the Beast Clan's strongest attack. Sun Yuan's purpose in coming here was for Ho Fei. Inside the main hall of the Qin mansion. You've already reached level 9 Demon Emperor? How is that possible? How long has it been? Although your cultivation speed was very fast back then, it's still impossible for you to reach level 9 Demon Emperor in merely 4,000 years. This was especially true for level 7, 8 and 9 Demon Emperors. The further you go, the harder it is to cultivate. Sun Yuan looked at Ho Fei in disbelief. Ho Fei felt ashamed in his heart. 4,000 years? If it wasn't for the fact that the Jianglan's realm gave him 10 times the time, how could he, Ho Fei, possibly reach level 9 Demon Emperor? I heard that Qin Yu's current strength is very strong. Thus, I already had a premonition that your strength might be very good. I even estimated that you've reached level 7 Demon Emperor. However, I never expected that my estimation was still too low. This time around, I had even planned to pass on the position of Great Ape Emperor to you. Sun Yuan said helplessly. There were very few people in the main hall. There were only Qin Yu, Ho Fei, Kuro, Qinda and Sun Yuan. Qin Yu and Kuro both smiled. Pass on the position of Great Ape Emperor to Ho Fei? Qin Yu and his brothers had already decided that once they undergo the divine tribulation, the three brothers would undergo the divine tribulation together. It was likely that the three brothers would have less than 1,000 years in the immortal, devil and demon realm. Oh Great Ape Emperor, please spare me. Aren't you doing well as the Great Ape Emperor? Ho Fei hurriedly said. But I've also reached level 9 Demon Emperor. Sun Yuan sighed and said. After I reached level 9 Demon Emperor, I prepared to properly train in order to face the arrival of the divine tribulation. However, you too. Ho Fei curled his lips and said. Great Ape Emperor, me, my big brother and mixed hair bird. We three brothers had already decided that we would undergo the divine tribulation together. With Big Brother's current cultivation, I reckon that the arrival of the divine tribulation will be coming soon. Naturally, the time that I've stayed in the immortal devil and demon realm is very short. However, you're different. You've only reached level 9 Demon Emperor. I reckon that you'll be able to stay in the immortal realm for several 100,000 years, or even several million years. You said the three of us will undergo the divine tribulation together. Sun Yuan was completely stunned. After he regained his senses, his face turned red and he said fiercely. No, absolutely not. 3 people undergoing the divine tribulation. Are you all courting death? You must know that the more people undergoing the divine tribulation, the more powerful the divine tribulation will be. When the 3 of you undergo the divine tribulation, the attack that each of you will have to bear would be 2 times more powerful than if you were to undergo the divine tribulation alone. As for how accurate it is, I also do not know. That's because in history, there have been 2 people undergoing the divine tribulation. There was a case of 2 people successfully undergoing the divine tribulation. As for 3 people undergoing the divine tribulation together, there has never been a precedent of 3 people successfully undergoing the divine tribulation. Sun Yuan clearly thought that Qin Yu and his brothers were indulging in fantasy. Only if the 3 of you possessed the strength of the 3 emperors of the demon realm, or the 3 great sovereigns of the dark star realm, would it be possible. Sun Yuan added. Qin Yu and his brothers glanced at each other and smiled. In terms of strength, Kuro was a bit stronger than the Peng demon emperor. As for Hou Fei, he was definitely not weaker than the great ape emperor. There was also a Qin Yu, the current Qin Yu. If he were to obtain the divine spear Waning Snow, he would have the confidence to take on all 6 of the 3 emperors of the demon realm, and the 3 great sovereigns of the dark star realm. Even if he did not possess the divine spear Waning Snow, Qin Yu would still be able to rely on his body's cultivation and soul's cultivation, compared to the Gold Punishment Lord, the Dragon Emperor and them. Amen. Qin Yu suddenly discovered a strange matter. He was unable to refrain himself from displaying a strange expression. His 2 transmission spiritual pearls had both received a message at the same time. One transmission spiritual pearl was the transmission spiritual pearl that Qin Yu used in the immortal realm, devil realm, and demon realm. As for the other transmission spiritual pearl, it was the transmission spiritual pearl that Qin Yu used in the dark star realm under the name of Lu Xing. I'll go out first, Qin Yu said to the several people in the main hall. However, he was puzzled in his heart. What were the 2 messages about? Chapter 481. Qin Yu stepped into a secluded courtyard on the east side of the Qin residence. With a flip of his hand, he took out the transmission spiritual pearl that he used in the immortal realm, devil realm, and other places. After scanning it with his divine sense, Qin Yu couldn't help but be slightly stunned. Flame Emperor? Wulong. Qin Yu was stunned for a good while. This message was sent by the Flame Emperor. The content was, Brother Qin Yu, I am sending you a message on behalf of the current Azura Devil Emperor. Azura Devil Emperor Wulong will be coming to visit you in a few days. Oh right, I forgot to tell you. Azura Devil Emperor Wulong is the new Azura Devil Emperor. His strength is also at level 9 Devil Emperor. Furthermore, he has Mo Luo and Mo Kong, 2 level 9 Devil Emperors behind him. It can be said that the current Wulong is the absolute overlord of the Devil Realm. I hope that Brother Qin Yu will still regard this meeting as important. Qin Yu was stunned for a good while before remembering. Wulong. Isn't Wulong the Devil Realm expert, who said that he would be able to reach level 9 Devil Emperor within 100 years when I broke the seal at the entrance of the Bewitching God Temple? I remember that he was only a level 6 Devil Emperor back then. Qin Yu immediately recalled. At that time, Wulong saw Qin Yu's spear and had an epiphany. Qin Yu didn't know that Wulong was the disciple of Mo Kong, one of the 2 great hidden experts of the Devil Realm. Wulong could be considered to be of the Azura Devil path. Now he had reached level 9 Devil Emperor in one go. He had easily defeated the previous Azura Devil Emperor by Rushua. Mo Luo and Mo Kong were brothers. Now Mo Kong's disciple had become an overlord. These 2 were naturally supporting him from behind. The 3 level 9 Devil Emperors of the Devil Realm were actually in the same camp. One could imagine Wulong's status. The Black Devil Emperor and the Blood Devil Emperor were simply not qualified to compete with Wulong. To say that Wulong was the absolute overlord of the Devil Realm was also a fact. Wulong, a little fellow at level 6 Devil Emperor. I didn't expect that his arrogant words from that day would really come true. It's only been 80 years, and he has already reached level 9 Devil Emperor. Sure enough, it hasn't been more than 100 years. Qin Yu recalled Wu Long's words and couldn't help but smile. Why did Wu Long come to visit him? Qin Yu smiled. With a flip of his hand, he took out another transmission spiritual pearl. He believed that Qin Yu ought to not have any hostility. Furthermore, in the immortal devil and demon realm, it was already a good thing that Qin Yu did not find trouble with others. Others were looking for trouble with him. If an egg had to hit a rock, then it was not the rock's fault if it broke. With a sweep of his divine sense, Qin Yu's face turned solemn. Has it finally begun? The corners of Qin Yu's mouth curled up slightly. This message was sent by the Gold Punishment Lord Xing Yuan. Consecrated Lu Xing, in a year's time, I will undergo my divine tribulation. I hope that you can come to the Gold Punishment Star as soon as possible. Firstly, you can watch me undergo my tribulation. Secondly, there is an even more important matter waiting for you. It is regarding the Gold Punishment Lord position. I reckon that the new Gold Punishment Lord position should be inherited by either you, consecrated Lu Xing, or the Vice Sect Master Lu Lan. Thus, you must hurry back to the Gold Punishment Star before I undergo my divine tribulation. If you are to arrive too late, and the Gold Punishment Lord position ends up in Lu Lan's hands, you cannot blame anyone else. With a flip of his hand, Qin Yu put away his transmission spiritual pearl. Gold Punishment Lord, is it? Qin Yu cast his gaze toward the north. It was as if he could see through the void and see the Gold Punishment Star. I have yet to see the 3 great inherited treasures of the Dark Star realm. Reportedly, among the 3 great inherited treasures, the Gold Punishment Lord's inherited treasure is the strongest. A smile appeared on the corners of Qin Yu's mouth. I'll just sit on the Gold Punishment Lord position. Furthermore, I possess the inherited treasure. When I undergo my divine tribulation, I can openly take it out. After all, I will have to return it to the Dark Star realm in the end. Qin Yu was certain, even if some of the peak characters of the divine realm were to discover that he was using the inherited treasure during his divine tribulation, they would not care about it. That was because the successive generations of Gold Punishment Lords were all like that. Furthermore, that inherited treasure would have to be returned to the Dark Star realm in the end. Qin Yu had never thought about bringing that inherited treasure to the divine realm. If he were to do that, he would become an enemy of the successive generations of Dark Star realm seniors. Spring water gurgled. Through the clear spring water, one could clearly see the cobblestones at the bottom of the water. In the bamboo forest beside the spring water, there was an elegant pavilion made of bamboo. This was Qin Yu's residence. Qin Yu was not fond of living in the Qin residence. Instead, he was fond of the tranquil natural environment. Normally, Qin Yu would be alone. Occasionally, he would accompany his brothers, his juniors, and so on. Third Highness, His Majesty the Demon Realm's Azura Demon Emperor has arrived. Qiu Wei walked over with the youth. At this moment, Qin Yu had his trousers rolled up and was sitting on a rock beside the spring water. His 2 legs were placed in the spring water, and he was feeling the flowing water. Wu Long, the young man who said that he would be able to reach level 9 Demon Emperor within 100 years. The current Azura Demon Emperor. Qin Yu was still sitting with his back facing the 2. Senior Qin Yu, this junior is indeed Wu Long. Wu Long was extremely respectful. Even though he had reached level 9 Demon Emperor and become the overlord of the demon realm, Wu Long was still extremely respectful to Qin Yu. Firstly, it was because of Qin Yu's spear attack back then. He clearly understood that even the current him was far inferior to Qin Yu. The second reason was that he believed that Qin Yu had taught him a favor. Seeing Wu Long being so polite, Qin Yu nodded inwardly. Qiu Wei, you go and rest first. Qin Yu said. Yes, Third Highness. Qiu Wei said respectfully, and then left. However, Wu Long was slightly puzzled. Why did that heavenly immortal address Senior Qin Yu as Third Highness? Wu Long was still not clear about Qin Yu's matters in the mortal realm. Why have you come? Qin Yu said indifferently. He still did not turn around. Wu Long said respectfully. This junior has come to thank Senior Qin Yu. If it wasn't for Senior's spear technique back then, there would be no Wu Long today. Although Senior is not this junior's master, Senior still owes Senior a debt of gratitude. Wu Long, your words are too serious. When I broke the seal back then, not only did you see it, the other 71 Emperor-level experts also saw it. They did not comprehend it, but you did. This is your own talent, your own ability. However, it has nothing to do with me. Qin Yu said indifferently. However, Wu Long's heart did not waver in the slightest. Once he had decided on something, it was simply impossible to change his mind. Senior Qin Yu, I have come this time, because I want Senior to take a look at this junior's spear technique. Is Senior willing to take a look? Wu Long said with the same respectful tone. For once, Qin Yu turned his head around. Spear technique? A trace of a smile appeared on Qin Yu's face. Alright, you can take a look. There is no need to use energy. Yes. Wu Long immediately stood perfectly straight like a javelin. At the same time, he stretched out his left hand, and a blood-red spear appeared in his palm. Wu Long said, Senior Qin Yu, this junior has comprehended Senior's spear technique that day. After returning, after 77 years, this junior has finally perfected this spear technique. This junior is unable to imbue the great Tao into a single move like Senior. Thus, this junior can only divide what I have comprehended into 9 moves, and create this set of blood fire 9 moves. As he spoke, Wu Long's left hand trembled, and the blood-red spear was already shot out. This set of spear technique was incomparably ruthless. Layers of spear shadows appeared, and in an instant, it felt as if the entire sky was filled with an endless sea of blood. The 9 moves of the spear technique were each more ruthless than the last. Furthermore, they all pressed forward courageously. Break! A low shout sounded. Immediately, the endless sea of blood dissipated, and a mournful arrow of blood shot out, as if it was tearing through space. That arrow of blood was the blood-red spear. The demonstration of the 9 moves of the spear technique had been completed. Wu Long held the end of the spear, and the tip of the spear pierced forward. A clear spatial ripple was shot out from the tip of the spear, and it flew for several hundred meters before dissipating. Wu Long stood there like a statue for a good while. Only then did he slowly retract his spear. Qin Yu's eyes shone slightly. Not bad. Your spear technique has an additional trace of killing intent compared to my spear technique. It's a killing intent that presses forward courageously. There's also that either you die or I die kind of fighting spirit. Qin Yu nodded and smiled. Your spear technique is already very outstanding. Without relying on the energy within your body, you're able to produce spatial ripples. This spear technique, if you were to rely on it, ordinary level 9 Devil Emperors should not be a match for you. Qin Yu's realm was much higher than Wu Long's. Thus, he was naturally able to determine it very clearly. According to Qin Yu's estimation, Wu Long's current comprehension of the spear technique was equivalent to the Ape Clan's Heaven's startling 3-stick strikes realm. Senior is right. Wu Long was very convinced in his heart. Qin Yu continued to smile and said, You're from the Azura Devil Path, right? That's right. Wu Long nodded. He was somewhat puzzled in his heart. He did not know why Senior Qin Yu would mention this Azura Devil Path. Qin Yu nodded and said, That's right. The cultivation of the Azura Devil Path has affected you. Although it can allow your spear technique to be filled with killing intent, and increase its power by a lot, at the same time, increasing your attack power has caused your defense to decrease. Although your spear technique can be considered to be pretty good, with your strength and realm, I think it's still possible for you to double the power of your spear technique within 100 years. Double the power. Wu Long was overjoyed. Wu Long's previous comprehension was able to allow him to rapidly reach level 9 Devil Emperor. However, he was only able to reach level 9 Devil Emperor. If he wanted to progress any further, he would have to spend a very long time like before. However, Qin Yu was able to double the power of his spear technique within 100 years. This caused him to be very excited. Senior, may I know if you can teach me? Wu Long said respectfully. I will only demonstrate it once. Whether or not you can comprehend it will be up to you. With a wave of his hand, Qin Yu placed a branch with bamboo leaves on it into Qin Yu's hand. Look carefully. Wu Long immediately raised his attention to the limit. He was completely focused on Qin Yu. Qin Yu lightly smiled. Holding onto the branch, Qin Yu walked to the side of a bamboo and used the branch to lightly knock on the bamboo. With merely a single knock, half of the bamboo that was as thick as a wrist was cut into it by the branch. If you understand it, then you understand it. If you don't have to ask me. After Qin Yu finished saying those words, he released his hand. He allowed the branch to be embedded into the bamboo. As for Qin Yu, he returned to his own pavilion. Earlier, what did Senior Qin Yu use? Wulong stood to the side. As if possessed, he said, "The branch is completely undamaged. Even the bamboo leaves on the branch are completely undamaged." However, the branch managed to cut half of the bamboo. Wulong shook his head and said, "No, Senior Qin Yu did not use any energy at all. However, if he did not use any energy, how is it possible for the branch to cut the bamboo without damaging the bamboo leaves?" Qin Yu, who was in the pavilion, glanced at Wulong, who was standing in a daze in the distance. Then he smiled faintly. The understanding of Tao could not be taught orally. He could only use some simple methods to demonstrate and let Wulong comprehend it. It was much easier for Wulong to demonstrate and let Wulong comprehend than to comprehend it alone. However, even so, it was not that easy for Wulong to comprehend the principle. If he can comprehend it, then the Bloodfire 9 styles will not have that flaw. Qin Yu sighed softly. Then he disappeared from the pavilion. Within the main hall of the Qin residence, Qin Yu bid farewell to a large group of people. He said that he would be going out to handle some matters. However, this time around, Qin Yu was going out by himself. Even Hou Fei and Kuro were unable to follow him. Qin De and Qin Feng wanted to ask when Qin Yu would return. However, Qin Yu, who was not certain, merely said that he would return within 3 years. In the boundless immortal devil and demon realm, Qin Yu used his astonishing greater teleportation to travel by himself. Compared to Hou Fei and Kuro, he was much faster. In less than a day, Qin Yu had entered the Dark Star Realm. The Dark Star Realm that was mysterious to the people of the immortal, devil and demon realms, was not a secret to Qin Yu. Northeast region, the mysterious Dark Star Realm. On the gold punishment star of the 3 great sacred planets. On the summit of the sacred mountain in the center of the enormous city of the gold punishment star. A large number of experts were gathered on the 18 mountain peaks. There were many more people than the last time Qin Yu was here. The matter of the gold punishment lord's divine tribulation had caused many of the gold punishment sect's disciples to rush back. When he stepped into the front palace, Qin Yu saw a familiar face. Great Elder Fu Lan. "Ah, consecrated Lu Xing, you finally come." Vice Sect Master Lu Lan and Great Captain Wen Feng have been anxiously waiting for you. Great Elder Fu Lan said excitedly. Consecrated Lu Xing. Quickly prepare to go to the Guardian Elder together with Vice Sect Master Lu Lan and Great Captain Wen Feng. Qin Yu was puzzled. Great Elder Fu Lan. Why are they waiting for me? Also, why are they going to the Guardian Elder's place? Isn't His Majesty the Gold Punishment Lord going to undergo his divine tribulation? Qin Yu asked in succession. Great Elder Fu Lan said in surprise. Consecrated Lu Xing, you don't even know about this? Although His Majesty's divine tribulation is important, the succession of the next Gold Punishment Lord is even more important. Consecrated Lu Xing, you, Vice Sect Master Lu Lan and Great Captain Wen Feng, all possess the qualifications to compete for the position of Gold Punishment Lord. Before the competition, the 3 of you must go to the Guardian Elder's place. What for? Qin Yu asked curiously. Great Elder Fu Lan said with a bit of envy. I also want to know. After all, the people who possess the qualifications to compete for the position of Gold Punishment Lord will all go to the Guardian Elder's place. I still do not possess the qualifications. Qin Yu understood. Quickly go. Every time, the people who possess the qualifications go to the Guardian Elder's place together. Vice Sect Master Lu Lan and Great Captain Wen Feng are waiting for you alone. If you don't appear, it will be considered as you giving up on the position of Gold Punishment Lord. Great Elder Fu Lan said with a smile. Give up? How could I? Qin Yu said with a smile. His divine awareness immediately discovered Wen Feng and Vice Sect Master Lu Lan. Immediately, he began to walk toward Wen Feng. Chapter 482. Numerous white night trees surrounded a courtyard. This courtyard was Wen Feng's residence on the main mountain peak. Because it was located on the mountain peak, the mountain wind blew, and the leaves of the white night trees fell to the ground. Stepping on the leaves of the white night trees, Qin Yu, wearing a black robe, walked to the entrance of the courtyard. Creak! Just as Qin Yu walked to the entrance to the courtyard automatically opened, revealing a person. It was the cold-looking youth wearing a silver robe, Wen Feng. Seeing Qin Yu, Wen Feng nodded slightly. Just now, Great Elder Fu Lan sent me the news of your arrival. Wen Feng, it seems that you are in a rush? Qin Yu asked with a smile. You. Wen Feng shook his head and smiled. The cold-looking Wen Feng had a different kind of charm when he smiled. Lu Xing, you know very well that with my little bit of strength, it is impossible for me to compete with you and Lu Lan. I am in a rush, but not for the position of monarch. That's enough. Let's talk inside. The two of us can't talk like this, one on the other side of the door, right? Wen Feng said with a smile. Hearing that, Qin Yu also smiled and walked into the courtyard. In the center of the courtyard, there was a simple and unadorned round table made of stone. Beside the round table, there were 3 stone benches. Qin Yu and Wen Feng sat down. Lu Xing, speak. Did you obtain any great harvest from the trip to the Bewitching God Temple? Wen Feng immediately asked after sitting down. Do you have the confidence to defeat Lu Lan? Qin Yu waved his hand, and a jug of wine and 2 jade cups appeared on the table. Don't be in a rush. Let's talk while drinking. Qin Yu calmly poured the wine. He did not seem to be in a rush. At this moment, Wen Feng had a smile on his face. Looking at Qin Yu, his gaze became joyful. Haha, I knew it. You definitely succeeded. Amen, that guy Lu Lan, he was still so arrogant in front of me a few days ago. I want to see if he can't obtain the position of monarch this time. How can he still be arrogant? Qin Yu was slightly startled. How do you know I succeeded? Qin Yu asked. Wen Feng had a crafty look in his eyes. I guessed it just by looking at your appearance. You are not worried at all, and are even in the mood to drink. But this wine is really not bad. As he spoke, Wen Feng finished a cup and even clicked his tongue in praise. Yes, I succeeded, Qin Yu said with a smile. This time, I have full confidence that I will get the throne. Come, congratulations to the future Gold Punishment Lord. Cheers, Wen Feng said jokingly. Qin Yu also raised his glass. Although the matter of guarding the elders was very important, it wasn't urgent. Qin Yu and Wen Feng chatted and drank for most of the day. On the other hand, Vice Sect Master Lu Lan, who had received the news of consecrated Lu Xing's return, was puzzled. Why didn't Lu Xing and Wen Feng come find him and head to the Guardian Elder's place together? Humph, that Lu Xing actually didn't come to my place. Could it be that you want me to go find him? Vice Sect Master Lu Lan was a bit angry. I don't believe that you don't want to know that secret. Only the experts that had the qualifications to become the successor of the Gold Punishment Lord would have the opportunity to know the secret. This secret would generally be revealed by the successive Guardian Elders. Although Wen Feng and Lu Lan had become successors very early on, the previous Gold Punishment Lord's selection was rather strange. That was because when the previous Gold Punishment Lord ascended, not a single 15-star Emperor-level expert appeared. This caused the position of Gold Punishment Lord to be vacant for a very long time. Later on, Xing Yuan, Wen Feng and Lu Lan appeared one after another. Relying on his strength, Xing Yuan was directly selected as the successor. Since Wen Feng and Lu Lan failed, the Guardian Elder did not summon them. They're still not coming? Lu Lan was a bit anxious at his residence. Humph. In the end, Lu Lan merely snorted coldly. Without bothering to put on airs, he rushed toward Wen Feng's residence by himself. If he were to allow Qin Yu and Wen Feng to continue like this, who knows how long he would have to wait. Haha, so that's what you're worried about. Qin Yu burst into loud laughter. So the reason why this Wen Feng was so anxious to go to the Guardian Elder's residence was because he wanted to know a great secret of the Gold Punishment Sect. What are you saying? Which expert in the entire Dark Star realm doesn't want to know that secret? That is something that only the successive successors are qualified to know. Last time, when Xing Yuan succeeded to the position of Gold Punishment Lord, the previous Gold Punishment Lord had already ascended. Because of this, the Guardian Elder simply did not tell us about that secret, said Wenfeng with a sigh. Qin Yu also grew curious. Exactly what is this secret? Qin Yu's eyes were flickering with curiosity. Consecrated Lu Xing, Great Captain Wenfeng, you're truly in a good mood. A loud laughter sounded. Vice Sect Master Lu Lan, with an aged expression, walked in. The two of you. Could it be that you're not planning to go to the Guardian Elder's residence? Qin Yu and Wenfeng glanced at each other. At the same time, the two of them revealed a slight smile. Sure enough, he couldn't hold himself back. Qin Yu and Wenfeng sighed in their hearts. Wenfeng stood up and said with a smile, Vice Sect Master Lu Lan, although the matter of going to the Guardian Elder's residence is important, it will be fine as long as we go there before His Majesty undergoes his heavenly tribulation. There's no need to rush for a day or two. Consecrated Lu Xing, don't you agree? Seeing Wenfeng's expression, Qin Yu naturally understood what Wenfeng was thinking. He nodded and said seriously, Amen. There's no need to rush for this matter. It's fine even if we wait for half a month or a month. Lu Lan's expression immediately turned slightly ugly. While Qin Yu and Wenfeng were not in a hurry, Lu Lan was. These two guys. Lu Lan frowned. Then he squeezed out a smile and said, Brother Wenfeng, Brother Lu Xing, I actually still have an important matter that I must attend to. However, if I don't go to the Guardian Elder's residence, I will not be able to feel at ease. I hope that the two of you can help me. Qin Yu and Wenfeng both lightly nodded. Brother Lu Xing, since Vice Sect Master Lu Lan has an important matter to attend to, we cannot trouble him. Let's go right now, Wenfeng said in a deadly earnest manner. That makes sense. Let's go right now, Qin Yu said in a deadly earnest manner as well. Only then did Vice Sect Master Lu Lan let out a sigh of relief. Thank you, both of you. Qin Yu and the other two left the courtyard at the same time. They proceeded to fly toward the Inheritance Palace's mountain peak, among the 18 mountains. The three of them flew side by side. Although the wind was blowing against their faces, the three of them were chatting and laughing with ease. Vice Sect Master Lu Lan, do you know of this secret? Qin Yu asked. Vice Sect Master Lu Lan shook his head and said, I am not too sure. All I know is that this secret is related to the inheritance treasure. It is related to the great secret of the Gold Punishment Sect. Wenfeng refused to say anything. After exchanging a few words, the three of them arrived outside the Inheritance Palace. The Inheritance Palace was like a prehistoric giant beast. The ancient stone building had a history of who knows how many hundreds of millions of years. The entire Inheritance Palace was emitting an ancient and bizarre aura. An oppressive feeling could be felt from the Inheritance Palace. Wenfeng and Vice Sect Master Lu Lan both felt an oppressive feeling in their hearts. Qin Yu was the only one who did not feel any change. This must be the aura contained within the inheritance treasure. Qin Yu thought to himself. This inheritance palace had existed for who knows how many hundreds of millions of years. Its entire body contained the energy of the inheritance treasure. That was why it was emitting such an oppressive aura. The three of you may enter now. The somewhat hoarse voice of the Guardian Elder rang out from within the Inheritance Palace. Qin Yu, Wenfeng and Lu Lan walked side by side. They walked into the Inherited Palace at almost the same pace. The three of them did not say a single word. After entering the Inheritance Palace, they saw a thin and dark old man seated cross-legged on a praying mat. It was none other than the Guardian Elder. There were also 3 praying mats placed before the Guardian Elder. Sit. The Guardian Elder opened his turbid eyes and looked at the 3 of them. Although his eyes were turbid, the 3 of them did not dare to be disrespectful to the Guardian Elder in the slightest. Every single Guardian Elder possessed a very high status. Even the 3 great sovereigns would have to treat them with respect. It was not because the Guardian Elders possessed powerful strength. Instead, it was because of their status. The reason for that was because the Guardian Elders were the people who knew the most about the inheritance treasure and all sorts of secrets. It was said that the Guardian Elders were even capable of contacting the seniors of the Divine Realm. Qin Yu, Wen Feng and Lu Lan sat down cross-legged in succession. Seeing the three of them, the guardian elder displayed a gratified smile. This generation's His Majesty is about to undergo his divine tribulation. Fortunately, there are 3 successors. The joke of leaving the position of the gold punishment lord empty will not happen again. Wen Feng, Lu Lan and Qin Yu were all silent. They were only listening to the guardian elder. The gold punishment lord, His Majesty Xing Yuan, is about to undergo his divine tribulation. According to the rules, the 3 of you are qualified to inherit the position of the gold punishment lord. Of course, the final decision will depend on your strength. Before that, I will tell you all some secrets regarding our gold punishment sect's inheritance treasure, the gold punishment spiritual pearl. The eyes of Qin Yu, Wen Feng and Lu Lan all shined. Gold punishment spiritual pearl? Only now did Qin Yu know the name of the inheritance treasure. The gold punishment spiritual pearl, and the other 2 great spiritual pearls, were both suddenly born several tens of billions of years ago. It also caused our dark star realm to end the fighting and killing between each other, and walk towards peace. The guardian elder slowly said. Qin Yu, Wen Feng and Lu Lan all understood that this guardian elder was about to talk about the secrets of the gold punishment spiritual pearl. Next, I will tell you all a matter. This matter is something that only a very small number of people in the Dark Star realm know about. After you all learn about it, you must absolutely not spread it out. The guardian elder's turbid eyes instantly turned clear as he stared at the 3 of them. Qin Yu, Wen Feng and Lu Lan all nodded. Gold punishment spiritual pearl, black flame spiritual pearl, and white profound spiritual pearl. These 3 great spiritual pearls were actually bestowed to us, the people of the Dark Star realm, by a single person. The guardian elder's aura suddenly changed. He became incomparably respectful. Qin Yu's heart trembled. Wen Feng and Lu Lan's expressions also changed greatly. A single person. Was it a senior of the Dark Star realm? Qin Yu began to guess in his heart. Merely on the surface, he remained silent and waited for the guardian elder to continue. The guardian elder continued to speak respectfully. That lord possessed the omnipotent ability to destroy the heavens and extinguish the earth. He had said that as our Dark Star Realm's clan is the natives of this cosmic space, we should possess a clan protection treasure. Thus, he bestowed 3 grand spiritual treasures to our clan. These treasures are capable of ensuring that our clan will never be extinguished. These treasures are the 3 great spiritual pearls. Grand spiritual treasures? Qin Yu cried out in surprise. Qin Yu had never imagined that the 3 great spiritual pearls were actually grand spiritual treasures. Furthermore, they were bestowed to their clan by a single person. Consecrated Lu Xing, you've heard of grand spiritual treasures? The guardian elder asked in confusion. Qin Yu shook his head and said, No, I've never heard of grand spiritual treasures. That's why I'm confused. Exactly what are grand spiritual treasures? They actually possess such powerful abilities. Wen Feng and Lu Lan also nodded. Wen Feng said, Guardian Elder, do you know what grand spiritual treasures are? The guardian elder shook his head and said, I do not know. What I said earlier was the words of that lord. This is also something that has been passed down through the generations of guardian elders. Let's not talk about this matter for now. Actually, whether or not you all know this secret is of little use. Wen Feng and Lu Lan both nodded. They only knew the origin of the 3 great spiritual treasures. So what if they knew? So what if they didn't know? Qin Yu began to guess in his heart. Who is that person? He said that as the Dark Star Realm's clan is the natives of this cosmic space, they should possess a clan protection treasure. What does he mean by that? Is that person a god king? Or an exalted celestial? Right now, what I am going to tell you all is the most important matter. It is the use of the gold punishment spiritual pearl, said the guardian elder with a stern voice. Qin Yu immediately stopped his wild imagination. Wen Feng and Lu Lan also stared at the guardian elder. Among the 3 great spiritual treasures, the gold punishment spiritual pearl is the strongest. However, even if an 18-star emperor level expert were to fuse with the gold punishment spiritual pearl, they would still be unable to completely unleash the effects of the gold punishment spiritual pearl. However, Even so, the effects of the gold punishment spiritual pearl are already astonishingly frightening. The guardian elder had a very solemn expression. Once one fuses with the gold punishment spiritual pearl, the first thing that will happen is the gold strength in one's body. With the assistance of the gold punishment spiritual pearl, the gold strength will increase by 10 times or even more. As for how much the gold strength will increase, it will mainly depend on the degree of fusion. The guardian elder's first words caused Wenfeng and Lu Lan's eyes to turn red with envy. To increase by several tens of times in an instant, how extraordinary would that be? This is not the main effect of the gold punishment spiritual pearl. The main effect of the gold punishment spiritual pearl is to fuse with one's body and increase one's body's strength by several tens of times. Its toughness will also greatly increase. The toughness of your bodies is already very strong. However, if you were to fuse with the gold punishment spiritual pearl, it could be said that even a high-quality divine artifact would be like mud in front of you. Even divine tribulations, no matter how they strike your bodies, they would not be able to injure you in the slightest. The guardian elder was a bit excited. The gold punishment lord who possesses the gold punishment spiritual pearl could be said to have an invincible defense. An invincible defense. He is capable of sweeping through the entire immortal, devil and demon realm by himself. Wenfeng and Lu Lan's breathing became hurried. No wonder the gold punishment lord was invincible. No wonder there were no battles in the dark star realm. That was because the three great sovereigns were too powerful. Qin Yu lightly smiled in his heart. Invincible? Although they are invincible in the immortal, devil and demon realm, would they be able to withstand a single spear strike from me? Qin Yu thought in his heart. Qin Yu understood that Grand Mist spiritual treasures were also ranked. Ordinary Grand Mist spiritual treasures would not be able to match up to his high-quality heavenly divine artifact. Furthermore, the divine spear waning snow was one of the high-quality heavenly divine artifacts that the craftsman god was most proud of. The craftsman god had crafted many acquired Grand Mist spiritual treasures. However, he was most proud of this divine spear waning snow. From this, one could imagine how powerful this divine spear waning snow was. Suddenly, Qin Yu recalled the words of the guardian elder. His expression changed. Earlier the guardian elder said. Qin Yu was so excited that his fingers started trembling. That gold punishment spiritual pearl's main effect is to increase one's body's strength by several tens of times and increase one's toughness greatly? Qin Yu's face turned red. He was so excited that he turned red. Furthermore, even the gold force in his body has increased by over 10 times. That entrance to the artifacts palace of the bewitching god temple contains many treasures. At the same time, it also contains the core control treasure of the bewitching god temple. Refining that treasure is equivalent to obtaining the bewitching god temple. However, last time, I was unable to open the bewitching god temple at all. That was because I only managed to obtain a third of my strength. Qin Yu's eyes shined. But if I were to fuse with the gold punishment spiritual pearl, then I would definitely be able to open the artifacts palace. If I were to open the artifacts palace, wouldn't that mean that I would possess the bewitching god temple? Increase one's strength by several tens of times. That would definitely allow him to open the bewitching god temple. In an instant, Qin Yu was so excited that his eyes turned red. Chapter 483. When the guard elder saw Qin Yu, Lu Lan and Wenfeng's shocked and excited expressions and blazing gazes, a satisfied smile appeared on his face. He was very fond of seeing the peak experts of the gold punishment sect acting like this before him. He had already done the same thing 3 times during his time as the guard elder. Every time he saw those super experts with extremely high status losing their self-control after learning about this secret, he would always feel a burst of satisfaction. Too powerful. Lu Lan's heart was filled with excitement. He had long thought that the gold punishment spiritual pearl was extremely powerful. However, he had never imagined that it would be this powerful. It was no wonder that none of the past gold punishment lords dared to make an enemy out of it. It was no wonder that it had never failed its divine tribulation. I must obtain it, I must. Lu Lan clenched his fists tightly. He was so excited that his fists were trembling slightly. He had never yearned for something so much. Wenfeng also had a yearning in his heart. His yearning for the gold punishment spiritual pearl was something that he understood very well when he saw Qin Yu and Lu Lan beside him. He was simply no match for Qin Yu and Lu Lan. Lu Xing is also like this. It would appear that he also yearns for the gold punishment spiritual pearl. Wenfeng sighed in his heart. Regardless of whether it was Wenfeng, Lu Lan or that guard elder. None of them knew that. Qin Yu was not excited because of how exceptional the gold punishment spiritual pearl was. Instead, the reason why he was excited was the bewitching god temple. As long as Qin Yu could fuse with the gold punishment spiritual pearl, he would be able to open the entrance to the artifacts palace. This also meant that Qin Yu would be able to obtain the entire bewitching god temple. The gold punishment spiritual pearl is mine. Qin Yu's eyes suddenly burst forth with a sharp glint. This was the first time that Qin Yu was so determined to do something after coming to the Dark Star realm. Qin Yu took a glance at Lu Lan beside him. Seeing Lu Lan's ice-cold gaze, Qin Yu smiled lightly in his heart. If he wanted to obtain the gold punishment spiritual pearl, would there be anyone who could stop him? The three of you ought to know how precious the inherited treasure, the gold punishment spiritual pearl is. Right now, the three of you possess the qualifications to obtain the gold punishment spiritual pearl and become the new gold punishment lord. If you want to obtain the gold punishment spiritual pearl, then prepare well. After His Majesty Xing Yuan passes through the tribulation, the competition between the three of you will be held. The victor will become the new gold punishment lord, said the guard elder with a smile. Vice Sect Master Lu Lan was the first to stand up. With a confident smile on his face he said, "The next gold punishment lord will be none other than me. Consecrated Lu Xing and Senior Captain Wenfeng's strength are much weaker than mine." "You seem to be very confident." Wenfeng frowned and said sarcastically, "Could it be that you wish to compete with me as well?" Vice Sect Master Lu Lan asked with a cold expression on his face. "Don't forget. Don't blame me if you accidentally lose your life in this competition." A threat, a blatant threat. Wenfeng smiled indifferently. "Confident? I am not greedy for the position of gold punishment lord. What am I confident about? However, seeing how arrogant you are, I feel pity for you. Could it be that you really think that you can become the new gold punishment lord?" Confidently, Lu Lan slightly raised his chin and said with a cold voice, "Other than me, who else is more qualified to become the next gold punishment lord? Could it be that you two 15-star emperor level experts wish to challenge me? Presumptuous." An ice-cold voice sounded. At the same time, a ferocious aura pressed down on Lu Lan's body. Lu Lan felt that he was suffocating. Even his chest began to ache from the pressure. Lu Lan looked toward the direction of the aura. It was precisely Qin Yu who was coldly looking at him. "Lu Lan, could it be that you think that being awarded the title plate of 15-star emperor level expert means that you possess the strength of a 15-star emperor?" Qin Yu said with a cold voice. "You concealed your strength?" Vice Sect Master Lu Lan opened his eyes wide. Qin Yu sneered. He then said to Wenfeng, "Brother Wenfeng, let's go." Wenfeng was also happy to see Vice Sect Master Lu Lan suffering a setback. Immediately, he happily followed Qin Yu and left. Vice Sect Master Lu Lan looked at the backs of Qin Yu and Wenfeng as they left. His eyes flashed with a malicious radiance. He snorted in his heart. "Concealed your strength? How strong can you be even if you conceal your strength? Although your aura is strong, it does not necessarily mean that your strength is strong. You too want to seize the position of gold punishment lord? In your dreams." Soon after, Vice Sect Master Lu Lan also left the inherited palace. Only the guard elder who was sitting cross-legged on the praying mat remained in the inherited palace. As the guard elder saw the three of them leaving in succession, a trace of a meaningful smile appeared on his face. "Oh, not bad. It seems that the battle this time around might be even more intense. That Lu Xing is truly unfathomable. Asterisk 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 Ever since Qin Yu, Wenfeng and Lu Lan met the guard elder and learned of his secret, they had been living in their own homes. The three of them stayed quietly in their respective residences, occasionally chatting with some friends. They were all waiting for a day, several months later, the day when the gold punishment Lord Xingyuan would undergo his tribulation. More and more experts gathered on the gold punishment star. As time passed, the number of emperor-level experts that had arrived on the gold punishment star had reached a frightening number of 3,000. These emperor-level experts were all from the gold punishment sect, the Black Flame sect, and the White Profound sect. The majority of these experts had stopped their bitter training on the dark stars and came here for the sake of watching the gold punishment lord undergo his tribulation. There was no danger in the three great sovereigns undergoing their divine tribulations. However, the probability of success for ordinary people from the dark star realm was a bit lower. These emperor-level experts naturally wanted to watch others undergo their divine tribulations in order to accumulate some experience, so that they could prepare for their own divine tribulations in the future. Qin Yu and Wenfeng lived in the same palace. However, the two of them would spend most of their time in seclusion and would only occasionally gather together. In these days, a large number of emperor-level experts from the Gold Punishment sect had come to pay a visit to these two experts. Qin Yu and Wenfeng were sitting on either side of a long table. On this long table were a dozen or so exquisite dishes. Qin Yu was very fond of the dishes that were unique to the Dark Star realm. To cultivators, eating, drinking and so on was nothing more than a form of relaxation and enjoyment on the arduous path of cultivation. Brother Wenfeng, I had never imagined that the sacred mountain would be this lively in the past. Qin Yu drank a cup of wine and said with a smile on his face. Wenfeng nodded and said with a smile, in the past, there were at most several tens of emperor-level experts on the sacred mountain. Never would I have expected that there would be over 1,000 emperor-level experts now. As for the entire city, there are over 3,000 emperor-level experts. The emperor-level experts on the sacred mountain were practically all emperor-level experts from the Gold Punishment sect. As for the emperor-level experts from the Black Flame sect and the White Profound sect, the majority of them lived in the city. Only those with high status would be able to come to the sacred mountain. Right at the moment when Qin Yu and Wenfeng were happily chatting, a guard walked over. Lord Wenfeng, Lord Lu Xing, there are 9 emperor-level experts outside who wish to pay a visit to milords, said that guard respectfully. Qin Yu and Wenfeng glanced at each other. They both had bitter smiles on their faces. Wenfeng, this is the second group of people that have come to pay us a visit today, right? Qin Yu said with a smile. In the past several tens of days, there have been 1 or 2 groups of people coming to pay us a visit practically every day. Wenfeng smiled helplessly. Qin Yu and Wenfeng. One was the large captain of the law enforcement squadron. The other was the only consecrated. The two of them possessed status equal to the vice sect master. Furthermore, they were 2 of the 3 successors to the Gold Punishment Lord. It was very natural for a large number of people to pay them a visit. Let them in, said Wenfeng. Yes. That guard immediately stepped back. Qin Yu and Wenfeng both knew that it was rare for those people to pay them a visit. If they were to refuse them, it would be too unreasonable. After the arrival of one group of visitors after another, Qin Yu finally reached the limit of his patience. He directly announced that he was going to enter seclusion training. He would only come out the day before his tribulation. Actually, there was only about a month's time until the Gold Punishment Lord's tribulation. However, the closer it was to the end, the more people came to pay a visit to Qin Yu and Wenfeng. A day after Qin Yu entered seclusion training, Wenfeng was also forced to enter seclusion training. Thus, they could only use seclusion training to refuse all visitors. Inside the room, sunlight was shining in. Qin Yu was sitting cross-legged on the bed. His eyes were closed. However, in an instant Qin Yu had disappeared. At the same moment, on a meadow in the second layer space of the Jianglan's realm, Qin Yu suddenly appeared. He was still sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed. Qin Yu planned to train for 30 days. In the second layer space of the Jianglan's realm, there were close to 3,000 days for him to train. In Qin Yu's mind, The soul Jin Dan was faintly emitting a seven-colored radiance. As for Qin Yu, his consciousness was unceasingly comprehending the comprehension of space left behind by Zhuqiumei. Decompose, dissect, generalize, merge, link. Qin Yu's consciousness was unceasingly going through this process of comprehension. In this process, Qin Yu had forgotten about time. He had forgotten about everything. As time passed, Qin Yu became excited for every bit of comprehension he gained. That sort of feeling was very wonderful. As he continued to research, the secrets of the mysterious cosmic space became less and less. His understanding of the nature of the cosmic space also became more and more profound. As this sort of research continued, Qin Yu even had a feeling that if this were to continue, then there would be a day when he would be able to completely research the entire cosmic space and control it. Qin Yu believed that at that time, he would be able to control the spatial laws. It was during this sort of training, suddenly, a wonderful feeling entered Qin Yu's soul consciousness. Qin Yu's training had completely stopped, and at this moment, Qin Yu completely understood. Divine tribulation? My divine tribulation is truly quite early. Qin Yu opened his eyes. He had a slight smile on his face. With regards to his divine tribulation, Qin Yu had already made preparations. He had estimated that his divine tribulation would descend within several hundred years, and when he was training earlier, he had clearly sensed that his divine tribulation would descend 108 years later. It's shorter than I had imagined. Qin Yu thought in his heart. 108 years later, he would undergo his divine tribulation. After passing his divine tribulation, he would ascend to the divine realm not long after. Qin Yu was very clear about this. Once one passes his divine tribulation, he would ascend to the divine realm within a year. The time was very short. 108 years is sufficient for me to do a lot of things. Qin Yu muttered to himself. Soon, the gold punishment Lord Xingyuan will undergo his divine tribulation. After that, I will seize the position of the new sovereign. After fusing with the gold punishment spiritual pearl, I will go to the bewitching god temple and open the artifacts hall. Qin Yu immediately had a series of plans in his mind. Divine realm. In Qin Yu's heart, the divine realm was not merely a higher-level world. More importantly, the divine realm was his true battlefield, the final battlefield where he had fought for so many years. In that place, he would defeat all of his rivals in love. Uncle Lan, Granny Yin Hua, their astonishing strength. Evidently, Li Er's clan is also an extraordinary clan in the divine realm. In order to defeat the other experts and break through the obstruction of the various powers, I can only obtain even stronger strength and even more abilities. Qin Yu's pupil shrunk slightly. The number one artifact crafting expert of the divine realm. The craftsman god Cheho Yuan's knowledge on artifact crafting was something that Qin Yu was determined to obtain. Qin Yu understood very well that in a world where the strong reigned supreme, the position of the number one artifact crafting expert was extremely important. I must obtain the bewitching god temple. And before that, I must obtain the gold punishment spiritual pearl. Qin Yu thought in his heart. Immediately after, Qin Yu closed his eyes once more. I must seize the time to continue training. There's still a period of time before the gold punishment Lord Xingyuan undergoes his divine tribulation. Qin Yu's consciousness was once again completely immersed in the spatial comprehension left behind by Zhuqiumei. Dissecting and analyzing, unknowingly time passed. In the second layer space of the Jianglan's realm, one possessed 100 times the amount of time compared to the outside world. This also allowed Qin Yu to train and comprehend even better. At a certain moment, Qin Yu felt a burst of throbbing in his consciousness. In an instant he completely woke up. Qin Yu, who was sitting on the grass, opened his eyes. He had a slight smile on his face. So it's already been 3,000 days. Soon after, Qin Yu disappeared from the second layer space of the Jianglan's realm. At Qin Yu's current level, if he wanted to wake up at any time then, even if Qin Yu's consciousness was completely immersed in the comprehension process, he would still be able to instantly wake up at the predetermined moment. Creak. After finishing his seclusion training, Qin Yu finally walked out of his room. Qin Yu raised his head and looked to the sky. Involuntarily, he took a deep breath of the fresh and cold air. There's truly a lot of people. Qin Yu's divine awareness immediately discovered that on the entire sacred mountain, there were at least 10,000 people flying back and forth in the sky. It was extremely lively. Tomorrow was the day of the Gold Punishment Lord's divine tribulation. It was normal for it to be this lively today. A youth who had been sitting on a stone bench in the courtyard for an unknown amount of time stood up in surprise upon seeing Qin Yu. Lord Lu Xing, you finally finished your seclusion training. His Majesty instructed me to have you go to his place after finishing your seclusion training. His Majesty is going to undergo his divine tribulation tomorrow, right? Do you know where it is? Qin Yu casually asked. That youth immediately said respectfully, Lord Lu Xing, His Majesty is going to undergo his divine tribulation tomorrow. The location of His Majesty's divine tribulation has already been announced. It's a beautiful uninhabited planet not far from the Gold Punishment Star, called the 100 Flowers Star. Right now, there are already thousands upon thousands of experts rushing to the 100 Flower Star. 100 Flower Star. Qin Yu smiled and nodded. Well then you can leave now. I will go to His Majesty's place immediately. Yes, Lord Lu Xing. That youth respectfully left. Chapter 484. Qin Yu's figure was like the wind. He directly flew into the boundless valley. As the mountain wind whistled, his gown fluttered in the wind. Qin Yu's long hair also fluttered in the wind. Qin Yu arrived at another mountain. It was one of the 18 mountain peaks. The palace on top of this mountain peak was the residence of the Gold Punishment Lord. Due to the fact that the Gold Punishment Lord was going to undergo his divine tribulation tomorrow, there were many emperor-level experts gathered here today. However, practically all of these people were outside the palace. They did not dare to enter and disturb the Gold Punishment Lord Xing Yuan. However, Qin Yu did not care about them in the slightest. He directly walked toward the entrance of the palace with large strides. Who is that person? How come I've never seen him before? I don't know him. However, he seems to be an expert. I am unable to see through him. Some experts began to discuss with their friends in confusion. There were not many people in the Dark Star realm that had seen Qin Yu before. Especially during this period of time, Qin Yu had entered seclusion training. Only a small portion of the people that knew him had seen him before. Lord Lu Xing, a bald, robust man said respectfully. Qin Yu lightly nodded his head and continued onward. As for the robust man beside him, he had paid a visit to Qin Yu and Wenfeng before. Thus he also knew them. So it's Lord Lu Xing, one of the 3 great successors to the next Gold Punishment Lord. Immediately, someone realized who Lu Xing was. The surrounding experts immediately began to greet Lu Xing respectfully. Lord Lu Xing, Lord Lu Xing. Every man, woman, young man, and old man was so respectful. This was how it was in the Dark Star realm. The more powerful one was, the more respect one would receive. As for Qin Yu, he was the only consecrator of the Gold Punishment sect. His status was equivalent to the Vice Sect Master, and second only to the Gold Punishment Lord. Furthermore, he was one of the 3 great successors. For such an expert, who among the people present did not respect him from the bottom of their hearts. After a short moment, Qin Yu walked past the yellow stone path in front of the palace. The guard at the entrance of the palace immediately bowed respectfully and said, Lord Lu Xing, His Majesty has already given the order. When Lord Lu Xing arrives, you can go directly to the rear hall of the main hall. His Majesty will be waiting for you there. Okay. Qin Yu nodded slightly, and then stepped into the palace. He did not even bother to ask where the rear hall was. That was because Qin Yu's divine awareness had already discovered the location of the Gold Punishment Lord Xing Yuan. He took a step forward. With the second step, he arrived at the entrance of the main palace. With another step he entered the rear hall. However, the surrounding people who saw it felt very natural and harmonious, as if it was a matter of course. On a chair in the rear hall, the Gold Punishment Lord's eyes were slightly narrowed as he leaned on it. Beside his hand was a table. On the table was a pot of tea and 2 cups. On the other side of the table there was also a chair. Sit. Seeing that Qin Yu had entered, the gold punishment Lord Xing Yuan opened his eyes and pointed to another chair. Qin Yu nodded and sat down. He smiled and said, "Your Majesty Xing Yuan doesn't seem to be worried about the divine tribulation at all. Even at this time, you are still so relaxed." Xing Yuan picked up the teacup and took a sip. Then, he cast his gaze toward Qin Yu. He fixed his gaze on Qin Yu and said, "Lu Xing, you should also know about the benefits of the gold punishment spiritual pearl. Did you think that I would still need to care about the divine tribulation? The reason why I came to find you today is because I wanted to ask you about a matter." Qin Yu was unable to help himself from feeling puzzled. This Xing Yuan was someone who was about to ascend to the divine realm. Why would he come to find him? "Your Majesty Xing Yuan, please speak," Qin Yu said straightforwardly. Xing Yuan nodded and said, "Actually, I do not have any disciples in the Dark Star realm. I do not even have any relatives. It could be said that I am completely carefree. If it wasn't for the fact that I was slightly worried about the divine tribulation, I might not have come to seize the position of the Dark Star realm's overlord." Qin Yu nodded. Qin Yu knew very well that this Xing Yuan possessed the strength of an 18-star emperor. However, practically no one in the entire Dark Star realm knew of his existence. It was only later on that he suddenly appeared and seized the position of the Dark Star realm's overlord. That was why his reputation was so great. This sort of person truly did not care about authority. "Lu Xing, actually, I was already astonished the first time I saw you. That's because your soul's realm is extremely high. It's so high that even I am unable to see through it. My soul's realm has already reached 18-star emperor level. Thus, I found it strange, an expert whose soul's realm is close to that of a deity. Is his body's cultivation really only 15-star emperor level?" Xing Yuan said with a light smile. "Furthermore, you wanted to enter the bewitching god temple so much back then. This time, when I saw you, I felt that you've changed. Although I am unable to explain it clearly, I felt that you've become stronger. Lu Xing, tell me the truth. Do you have absolute confidence in the competition for the position of the Dark Star Realm's overlord after I passed the divine tribulation?" "I do." Qin Yu nodded and said. Qin Yu did not conceal anything. "That's more like it." Xing Yuan smiled happily. "Can you tell me how powerful you are?" "If you don't possess the gold punishment spiritual pearl, you shouldn't be a match for me," Qin Yu said with a light smile. Xing Yuan's eyes shined. He started to laugh out loud. "Indeed, it's as I imagined. I had already determined that your 15-star emperor level cultivation was merely concealing your strength. It would appear that my guess was correct. Haha. Unfortunately, I now possess the gold punishment spiritual pearl. You are no longer a match for me." Qin Yu merely smiled indifferently. He did not try to explain himself. That's because there was no need for him to explain himself. "The only doubt in my heart has finally been cleared." Comfortable, comfortable. Xing Yuan laughed out loud. "You called for me just for this?" Qin Yu was unable to refrain his shock. "Why did you think I sought you out?" Xing Yuan said with a beaming smile. "After I became the gold punishment lord, I had nothing to do. With my strength, everything was within my control. Only you. I felt that I was unable to control you, unable to understand you. Thus, I wanted to figure out your strength before ascending. That way my heart would feel at ease." Qin Yu shook his head and smiled. Truly a person who was easily satisfied. However, being satisfied would bring joy. On the second day, a large number of experts rushed toward the 100-flower star. Every gold punishment lord's divine tribulation was decided by the gold punishment lord himself. However, the great majority of divine tribulations were made public. It was simply impossible for the gold punishment lord to fail his divine tribulation. The 100-flower star was an extremely beautiful planet. There were many different kinds of beautiful flowers and plants. Resting among the flowers and watching the gold punishment lord's divine tribulation. Where else could one find such a day? A sea of people, densely packed people were gathered on the 100-flower star. At this moment, several 100,000 Dark Star Realms experts were gathered on the 100-flower star. To the Dark Star Realm, several 100,000 people was an enormous number. After all, even if the entire Dark Star realm were to be added together, their population would still be pitifully small. Qin Yu, Wenfeng, Lu Lan, Bao Yu and the other experts were all at the very front. They were the closest to the Gold Punishment Lord. As for the Gold Punishment Lord Xing Yuan himself, he was standing in the middle of a ring-shaped open space. The Black Flame Lord, White Profound Lord and the others were also sitting beside Qin Yu and the others. The people present were all chatting and laughing. There was not the slightest trace of nervousness. Lu Xing, have you seen a divine tribulation before? Wenfeng said to Qin Yu. Qin Yu had already seen the Cyan Emperor's divine tribulation before. Merely, Qin Yu wanted to conceal his identity. Thus he smiled and said, I have never seen it before. Wenfeng smiled and said, I've already seen it several times. Brother Lu Xing, let me explain it to you. This divine tribulation is separated into 3 stages. The first stage is the deep blue-colored ancient formation lightning tribulation. The second stage of the divine tribulation is the divine flame tribulation. The divine flame is extremely powerful. If it were to burn for a long period of time, even 17 or 18-star experts would be injured. The strongest stage of the divine tribulation is the third stage of the divine tribulation. The third stage of the divine tribulation is a kind of mixed tribulation. It contains gray-colored mist and gray-colored lightning attacks. Many of the experts of our Dark Star realm were injured by it. Hearing up to this point, Qin Yu began to carefully listen. Although he had seen the Cyan Emperor's divine tribulation, he had only seen the outer appearance. As for the deeper layers, Qin Yu did not know about it at all. As for the experts of the Dark Star realm, it was clear that their understanding of the divine tribulation was much higher than the people of the immortal, devil, and demon realm. Brother Wenfeng, don't most of the experts of the Dark Star realm have reached 17-star Emperor level? Why are they unable to pass the divine tribulation? Qin Yu asked in confusion. 17-star Emperor level, logically speaking, was equivalent to the strength of the 9th stage of the 9 steps dark gold body. With that strength, one should have 100% success rate in passing the divine tribulation. Wenfeng shook his head and said, although 17-star Emperor level experts are very powerful and have a very high probability of passing the divine tribulation, there are still many people who have died. As for the reason, you'll know after His Majesty the Gold Punishment Lord finishes his divine tribulation. You're deliberately keeping me in suspense, said Qin Yu with a smile. The divine tribulation has begun. Wenfeng's expression suddenly turned serious. Qin Yu immediately grew silent. Right at this moment, the entire 100 Flower Star suddenly grew quiet. Not a single person among the several 100,000 people actually made a ruckus. Everyone had turned from noisy to absolutely silent. This sort of oppressive atmosphere had also caused Qin Yu to become serious. Oh, a gale suddenly started to blow. Countless flowers were blown into the air. It was as if the gloomy sky was splashed with ink by a deity. In an instant, black clouds began to roll about in the sky. The entire sky turned pitch black. The oppressive might of the divine tribulation began to fill the air. From the rolling black clouds, an enormous red vortex appeared. This red vortex was over 1,000 miles in circumference. The red vortex was spinning unceasingly. At the same time, deep blue-colored electric snakes began to flow through it. Chi-Chi. At this moment, Qin Yu discovered that the space surrounding the Gold Punishment Lord Xing Yuan had completely distorted. Xing Yuan's figure had also turned somewhat fuzzy. A millstone-shaped ancient formation began to emerge from the red vortex. The millstone-shaped ancient formation was formed by 9 deep blue-colored lightnings. These 9 deep blue-colored lightnings were unceasingly circulating within the ancient formation. The first divine tribulation, ancient formation lightning tribulation, against the Gold Punishment Lord Xing Yuan. The divine tribulation is simply not a challenge at all, thought Qin Yu in his heart. Indeed, it was as Qin Yu had anticipated. When the millstone-sized ancient formation lightning tribulation descended, before it even touched the Gold Punishment Lord, Xing Yuan casually shot a golden ray of light toward it. That was the gold force that had its might increase by over 10 times. It directly shattered the millstone-sized ancient formation lightning tribulation. The second divine tribulation, divine fire tribulation. That enormous red vortex was separated into an inner and an outer vortex. The inner and outer vortices were spinning in opposite directions. The friction between the two vortices created traces of black-colored flames that fused together and formed a black-colored fire dragon. Too weak, too weak. Qin Yu sighed in his heart. Sure enough, when the fire dragon formed by the divine fire enveloped the Gold Punishment Lord, the Gold Punishment Lord's entire body emitted a dazzling golden radiance. The Gold Punishment Lord was incomparably dazzling like the sun. The divine fire dissipated. The second divine tribulation also disappeared. Brother Wenfeng, two successive divine tribulations were easily broken through. Could it be that there's something extraordinary about the third divine tribulation? Qin Yu sent a voice transmission to Wenfeng beside him. Wenfeng shook his head and said, Lu Xing, the strongest of the three divine tribulations is the last one. Even if His Majesty the Gold Punishment Lord were to succeed, it would not be as easy as the first two divine tribulations. The third divine tribulation is very strong? Qin Yu was a bit puzzled. It is truly very strong. Wenfeng firmly stared at the red vortex in the sky. However, Qin Yu did not believe that to be the case. He still clearly remembered the scene of the Cyan Emperor undergoing his divine tribulation. When the final third divine tribulation descended, the Cyan Emperor's body emitted jade-colored ripples and easily broke through the third divine tribulation. In Qin Yu's heart, this third divine tribulation ought to be as weak as the first two divine tribulations. The black clouds that covered the entire sky were rolling about. The enormous red vortex continued to revolve at the same frequency. Traces of gray-colored fog began to seep out from the red vortex. The gray-colored fog from the over 1,000 miles wide red vortex gathered together and formed a large lump of gray-colored fog with a circumference of several hundred meters. The several hundred meter wide gray-colored fog descended and instantly covered the entire region surrounding the Gold Punishment Lord. As for the Gold Punishment Lord Xing Yuan, he was naturally enveloped within the fog. Within the gray-colored fog were traces of gray-colored lightning that were unceasingly moving about. When those gray-colored lightning struck the Gold Punishment Lord's body, they were simply unable to break through his defense. Qin Yu's divine awareness was able to easily see this scene. It would appear that even the divine lightning is unable to harm the Gold Punishment Lord in the slightest. Qin Yu thought in his heart. After the Gold Punishment spiritual pearl fused with his body's toughness has increased. His gold power has increased. The increase is simply too great. However, right at this moment, Qin Yu's expression changed. In the center of the gray-colored fog, the breathing of the Gold Punishment Lord who was standing still sounded. That was because the sound of his breathing was very loud. It was like the sound of bellows. Huff, huff, huff. The Gold Punishment Lord Xing Yuan was gasping for breath in a low voice. His two eyes were completely red. It was as if he was about to go crazy. Merely, his hands were tightly clenched. The veins on his forehead were also bulging. What's going on? Qin Yu was shocked. Chapter 485. Ah! The Gold Punishment Lord Xing Yuan suddenly raised his head and roared crazily. His entire body emitted an astonishing golden radiance. The golden radiance pierced through the gray-colored fog. Surging gold force rushed out like a tide, sweeping away the surrounding gray-colored fog and gray-colored lightning. The enormous red-colored vortex began to slowly dissipate. The rolling black-colored clouds also merged with the heaven and earth and disappeared. The heaven and earth once again returned to normal. A slight breeze started to blow. The space surrounding the Gold Punishment Lord Xing Yuan also returned to normal. The wind blew through Qin Yu's long hair. The ends of his hair fluttered on Qin Yu's face. A smile appeared on Qin Yu's face. Success. Congratulations, Brother Xing Yuan. The Black Flame Lord Wu Shan was the first to speak. Brother Xing Yuan, congratulations on successfully passing the divine tribulation. The White Profound Lord Jumi also spoke. Qin Yu, Wenfeng, Baoyu Lulan, a large group of experts in the surroundings all began to congratulate Xing Yuan. Although it was natural for Xing Yuan to successfully pass the divine tribulation, passing the divine tribulation meant that Xing Yuan was about to ascend to the divine realm. After passing the divine tribulation, one would generally ascend to the divine realm in less than a year. Haha, I'm in a bit of a sorry state. Xing Yuan's forehead was covered with sparkling sweat. This third stage mixed tribulation is truly powerful. In the end, I managed to withstand it. The Black Flame Lord Wushan laughed heartily. Xing Yuan, you're pretty good. You managed to withstand the Heart's Demon's invasion with only your willpower. I reckon that you'll have to vent it out. Heart's Demon? Aren't there all kinds of illusions that affect one's mind at the beginning of the divine tribulation? Qin Yu asked in confusion. According to what Qin Yu knew, during the process of passing the divine tribulation, there were illusions that affected one from beginning to end. Why would the Black Flame Lord mention the Heart's Demon's invasion? Lu Xing, you don't even know about this? Xing Yuan laughed heartily. The Black Flame Lord, the White Profound Lord, Wenfeng and the others also laughed. Their laughter caused Qin Yu to feel somewhat embarrassed. The Black Flame Lord Wushan laughed heartily. Lu Xing, this third stage divine tribulation is a mixed tribulation. It contains divine lightning and Heart's Demon fog. Heart Demon fog. Qin Yu recalled the gray fog. White Profound King Jumi nodded and said, Lu Xing, you are right. The God tribulation was influenced by the illusion from the beginning, but it was just an illusion. It wanted to affect your mind. But the Heart Devil mist of the third tribulation is different. That gray mist doesn't seem to have any attack power, but once it envelopes you, you will be attacked by all sorts of heart devils. Once the inner demons enter the body, it will be troublesome. Xing Yuan sighs and says, that divine lightning can't hurt me at all, but that heart devil ignores defense and only attacks my soul. This heart demon ignores everything else, but it can be used to defend or attack. However, in the process of attacking or defending, you can be affected by the heart demon. Xing Yuan laughed. Thus, the higher your soul cultivation, the easier it is to resist this heart demon. Wenfeng said from the side, His Majesty the Gold Punishment Lord is still fine. He possesses an inherited treasure, and does not fear the divine lightning in the slightest. He could wholeheartedly destroy and resist the inner demons. However, ordinary people would have to fend off the inner demons and the divine lightning at the same time. This is the powerful aspect of the third tribulation. Only now did Qin Yu completely understand. No wonder the Cyan Emperor was so relaxed back then. Qin Yu thought in his heart. The Cyan Emperor had already formed the Soul Jin Dan. Thus his soul cultivation was extremely high. Thus, it was naturally incomparably easy for him to resist the inner demons. The White Profound Lord Jumi laughed calmly. Actually, undergoing the third stage of the deity tribulation isn't that troublesome. All you have to do is block the attacks of your inner demons. All you have to do is block them for a period of time. When the time comes, the inner demon fog will automatically dissipate. As for Brother Xing Yuan, you tried to destroy it in vain. Thus, you can't blame others for being affected by the inner demons. Haha, since my body does not fear the divine lightning, I will naturally have to properly fight against the inner demons. If I were to only defend and not attack, wouldn't it be too boring? Xing Yuan laughed and said. Only now did Qin Yu come to a realization. The reason why Xing Yuan was affected by the inner demons was mainly because he took the initiative to attack. In the future, when I, Xiaohe and Fei are to withstand the divine tribulation together, I will take the initiative to attack and directly eliminate these inner demons. Qin Yu began to think about how to withstand the divine tribulation in the future. When the three of them undergo the divine tribulation together, the strength of the inner demons would not be 3 times stronger than the inner demons of a single person. Instead, it would increase exponentially. It might be 8 times, 9 times, or even stronger. The divine tribulation had passed. Immediately, a large group of people began to leave. As for the Gold Punishment Lord Xing Yuan, the Black Flame Lord Wushan, the White Profound Lord Jumi, as well as some of the vice sect masters, consecrated great elders and others, they all began to leave the 100-Flower Star. This group of people with the highest status in the Dark Star realm arrived at the Gold Punishment Star together and began to fly toward the sacred mountain. Over a dozen people were flying together and chatting with one another. "O Lu Xing, my divine tribulation has passed. In a short period of time, the battle for the position of the new Gold Punishment Lord will begin. You must not be careless and end up losing your position as Gold Punishment Lord," Xing Yuan said with a frank smile. Once those words were said, Vice Sect Master Lu Lan, who was 10 meters away from them, immediately had a gloomy expression. Right when Xing Yu wanted to say something, he was immediately interrupted by someone. "Oh Xing Yuan, judging from what you said, it seems that you've determined Lu Xing to be the next Gold Punishment Lord?" The Black Flame Lord Wu Shan said with a clear voice. A handsome youngster with long red hair nodded and said, "Judging from what your Majesty Xing Yuan said, could it be that consecrated Lu Xing's strength is even stronger than Vice Sect Master Lu Lan's?" This handsome youngster with long red hair was precisely the Vice Sect Master of the Black Flame Sect. He was also a 16-star Emperor-level expert. Qin Yu had already discovered the sinister gaze cast toward him by Lu Lan. This Xing Yuan is truly a blabbermouth, Qin Yu thought in his heart. However, Qin Yu did not care about it. That was because he already had the intention to become the next Gold Punishment Lord. Thus, it was natural for him to be a bit overbearing. Xing Yuan took a glance at Lu Lan beside him. "Lu Lan, let me remind you of this. Lu Xing's strength is not inferior to yours, haha. I will ascend to the Divine Realm in 5 months. As for the competition for the position of the next Gold Punishment Lord, it should be held in 3 months' time." Before Xing Yuan ascended, he was still the Gold Punishment Lord. Only after Xing Yuan ascended would the new Gold Punishment Lord be able to officially inherit the position of Gold Punishment Lord. 3 months. In 3 months' time, I will definitely win. The position of Gold Punishment Lord will definitely be mine, Lu Lan said coldly. Then, he turned into a ray of light and flew toward his residence. He did not care about the others at all. "Lu Xing, do not disappoint me." Xing Yuan looked to Qin Yu with a beaming smile. A trace of craftiness flashed through his narrowed eyes. Qin Yu felt helpless in his heart. This Xing Yuan, who was about to ascend to the Divine Realm, was so bored that he decided to toy with him. He didn't even allow him to live a peaceful life. The victor of the competition for the position of Gold Punishment Lord in 3 months' time will definitely be me. There is no need to doubt this. Qin Yu looked to the crowd with a smile on his face. Although he was smiling, the confidence he emitted was something that the surrounding people could clearly sense. Lu Lan's strength is very strong. However, this Lu Xing's strength seems to be even stronger. Furthermore, he is very mysterious. The competition for the position of the new Gold Punishment Lord is going to be interesting, the White Profound Lord Jumi said in a low voice. As for the 3 great successors Wen Feng, he was completely disregarded. Wen Feng himself did not have the slightest bit of resentment. After all, the difference in strength between him and Lu Lan was too great. In 3 months' time, Qin Yu and Lu Lan were both in seclusion training in their own residences. To the outside world, the 2 great competitors for the position of Gold Punishment Lord were currently undergoing their final bitter training. As for the final successor, Wen Feng, he announced that he was giving up on the competition for the position of Gold Punishment Lord. Wen Feng did not wish to be humiliated and taught a lesson by Lu Lan when he was fighting against him. 3 months later, several thousand miles to the east of the Gold Punishment Star City, at a spacious plain, Qin Yu and Lu Lan were fighting. Before the battle, a large number of people had already gathered here. Xing Yuan, Jumi and Wu Shan, the 3 great sovereigns, were all gathered here. All sorts of emperor-level experts and some other experts were also gathered here. Compared to observing the Gold Punishment Lord's tribulation, this sort of battle for the position of Gold Punishment Lord was much more attractive. Especially this battle where both sides were extremely powerful. This sort of battle could be said to be rarely seen in 10,000 years. It's been a long time since I've seen a battle between super experts. Furthermore, it's a battle of life and death. The Black Flame Lord Wu Shan laughed mischievously. For the position of Gold Punishment Lord, one would generally go all out in a battle. If one did not possess sufficient strength, one would have already admitted defeat. For example, Wen Feng. In all these years of competition for the position of Gold Punishment Lord, it is very rare for two 17-star Emperor level and above experts to fight against each other at the same time. The White Profound Lord Jumi nodded and said. Xing Yuan smiled and said, that Lu Xing is undoubtedly going to win this battle. There's truly a lot of people here. Wu Shan swept his gaze to his surroundings. A large number of experts were gathered densely on the plain. The number of people gathered here was even greater than the number of people who were watching the divine tribulation last time. As for the people at the very front, it was still the three great sovereigns and their group of people. Before the three great sovereigns was the spacious battlefield. At this moment, there was still not a single person on the battlefield. The two sides of the battle had yet to appear. Only the wind was blowing, and the grass on the ground was moving up and down. Oh! A figure suddenly appeared on the spacious battlefield's grass. It was precisely Qin Yu, who was wearing a long gown. His long gown was being blown by the wind. Even Qin Yu's long hair was being blown by the wind. As for Qin Yu himself, he was standing there with his hands behind his back. It was as if he was a statue that had existed since ancient times. Only that pair of eyes were closed. The clamor and chatter of the entire prairie immediately disappeared. In an instant, it became extremely quiet. Only the rustling sound of the grass being blown by the wind could be heard. The rustling sound seemed to be very loud. Qin Yu's eyes suddenly opened. He raised his head slightly and looked towards the east. A figure shot over at high speed like an eagle. His cold eyes were staring at Qin Yu. It was Lu Lan. Lu Lan is here. The eyes of Wu Shan, Xing Yuan and Zhu Mi, the three great sovereigns, lit up at the same time. The densely packed crowd of spectators all held their breaths. Shua. Lu Lan retracted his body and stood proudly to the south of Qin Yu. Qin Yu was in the north. Lu Lan was in the south. The two of them faced each other, with a distance of about 100 meters between them. Lu Xing, you had better admit defeat. Otherwise, I might accidentally kill you. That would be terrible. Lu Lan said coldly. You speak a lot of nonsense. If you want to fight, then fight. If you are timid, then just admit defeat. Qin Yu said calmly. When his eyes opened and closed, an extremely cold light shot out like lightning, releasing a terrifying pressure. Xing Yuan, Wu Shan, Zhu Mi, and the other three great sovereigns were all shocked. What a powerful soul. The three of them were secretly shocked. Fighting depends on the body and strength. What's the use of having a powerful soul? Lu Lan said with a cold smile. Then, all the muscles on his body began to bulge. Rays of golden light flowed all over his body. Hearing Lu Lan's words, Qin Yu secretly shook his head. He actually said that having a powerful soul was useless. Low-level fights depended on energy, body, and so on. But at a high level, it depended on the understanding of space and even time. That depended on the realm of the soul. Lu Lan growled. Shua. His figure instantly appeared in front of Qin Yu. His sharp claws reached Qin Yu's head. With Lu Lan's body, which was comparable to a high-grade divine artifact, this claw was extremely terrifying. The three great sovereigns frowned. Wen Feng, Bao Yu, and the others frowned as well. Attacking the head as soon as he arrived, it was obvious that he wanted to kill him. But in a fight for the position of sovereign, if one side was killed, it was inevitable. So they didn't say anything. But for Lu Lan to attack as soon as he arrived, it was a bit too much. Lu Lan smiled. He had already grabbed Qin Yu's head, but his smile instantly froze, because he couldn't feel any resistance. It was as though he was air. It was an afterimage. It's my turn to attack. A clear voice rang out across the entire plain. Everyone watching the battle heard it clearly. Lu Lan turned around with lightning speed. He looked towards the sky and saw Qin Yu standing in midair. Lu Lan transformed into a sharp arrow and shot towards Qin Yu in midair. In contrast, Qin Yu slowly raised his right fist. He simply stood in midair motionless. Die! Lu Lan had already arrived in front of Qin Yu. He was about to attack. Qin Yu punched as well. Qin Yu's punch wasn't fast. Furthermore, it was aimed at Lu Lan's chest. Sigh. Lu Xing is still being merciful. He shouldn't have attacked his chest. He should have attacked his. Xing Yuan sighed in his heart. But halfway through his sigh his expression froze. It wasn't just him. The expressions of Black Flame Lord Wu Shan, White Profound Lord Jumi, and the other super experts froze. This was because these super experts had clearly seen the scene before them. It was a scene that they couldn't believe. Qin Yu's fist had originally been aimed at Lu Lan's chest. But Xing Yuan, Jumi and the others all saw. Lu Lan's entire body suddenly moved downwards for no apparent reason. The fist that had been aimed at Lu Lan's chest just so happened to smash into Lu Lan's head. Lu Lan, who was completely unprepared, only had disbelief and shock in his eyes. Snap! Qin Yu's fist was like a watermelon. The sound of bones shattering could be heard. Lu Lan's head was smashed apart. Lu Lan's soul also began to slowly dissipate. Before dying, Lu Lan was still in disbelief. Why is space forcing my body to move downwards? What's going on? Before his soul dissipated, he received Qin Yu's divine sense voice transmission. Didn't you say that a powerful soul is useless? This is a kind of usage of the space after one's soul is strong enough, said Qin Yu via divine awareness voice transmission. So it's only at this moment did Lu Lan come to a realization. At this moment, his soul had completely dissipated. Lu Lan's corpse was falling downwards. Qin Yu thought to himself. The principle behind the heaven-startling single-stick strike was used on the fist. Qin Yu looked at his right fist that had smashed apart Lu Lan's head. A slight smile appeared on the corners of his mouth. At this moment, a burst of cheers that could topple mountains and overturn seas sounded. Those gold punishment sex cultivators with low levels of martial power did not see the scene of Lu Lan's body instantly falling. However, these people knew that the new gold punishment lord had already been decided. It was this Lord Lu Xing. Chapter 486. The main peak of the Gold Punishment Star's sacred mountain was incomparably noisy. That was because a grand banquet was being held here. A large number of experts were invited to this grand banquet. Practically all of the upper echelons of the Dark Star realm were gathered here. Compliments, congratulations, all sorts of voices were sounding unceasingly. As the main character of this banquet, Qin Yu felt a slight headache. That was because no one saw him, and they were all extremely enthusiastic. He could not be too rude. If it wasn't for the fact that this banquet was being held for me, I would have already left. Qin Yu thought in his heart. However, on the surface, Qin Yu was smiling. At the same time, he raised his cup and drank with a white-clothed, white-haired old man. Lu Xing, after I ascend to the divine realm, you will be the new Gold Punishment Lord. As the Gold Punishment Lord, you should at least know some of the experts of our Dark Star Realm's 3 great sects. This is the great elder of the White Profound sect, Fu Xian. Xing Yuan introduced. In this banquet, Qin Yu was the busiest person. As the new Gold Punishment Lord who was about to succeed the throne, many people's attitude toward Qin Yu had clearly changed. After all, the Gold Punishment Lord was the leader of the 3 great sovereigns. Only when the sky turned pitch black did the banquet disperse. As for Qin Yu, he immediately teleported to the sky above the mountain and flew toward his residence. As the cold wind of the night blew on his face, Qin Yu felt his mind become much clearer. I'm finally free. Qin Yu smiled and sighed. Lu Xing, wait for me. A familiar voice sounded. Qin Yu turned around to look. Wen Feng arrived beside Qin Yu after a short while. Wen Feng smiled at Qin Yu. Then he said, Lu Xing, I have to thank you this time. Qin Yu asked in confusion. What are you thanking me for? Thanking you for killing Lu Lan. Wen Feng said with a smile. If you hadn't killed Lu Lan, if you had ascended before Lu Lan, I would have been done for. That Lu Lan was not on good terms with me. Qin Yu finally understood. Qin Yu knew very well that one of the reasons why he had killed Lu Lan this time around was because Lu Lan had unleashed a killing blow upon him the moment he arrived. Evidently, he had not shown any mercy at all. The second reason was to help Wen Feng. You don't have to thank me for something like this. If I was weak, Lu Lan would have killed me as well, said Qin Yu calmly. Yes, Wen Feng agreed. Soon after, He smiled and looked at Qingyu. When His Majesty Xing Yuan ascends to the divine realm, you'll be able to fuse with the gold punishment spiritual pearl. At the same time, you'll be able to announce your identity as the sovereign of the divine realm. Qingyu nodded. There were still 2 months before Xing Yuan's ascension. From Xing Yuan's divine tribulation to the 3 months of fighting for the monarch's position. In the 2 months of waiting, Qingyu had been training in his room in the palace, and had not entered the second layer space of the Jianglan's realm. This was because the timing of the divine tribulation was very special. Even though Qingyu was hiding in the Jianglan's realm, the divine tribulation still arrived. The divine tribulation was a sort of universal law. It simply ignored all the obstructions of space. Qingyu sensed that the divine tribulation would arrive in 108 years. Regardless of whether Qingyu was hiding in the Jianglan's realm, or the immortal devil and demon realm, the divine tribulation would arrive in 108 years. The time of the divine tribulation's arrival was not determined by the flow of time in different universal spaces. Instead, it was calculated by the time that the person undergoing the divine tribulation experienced. For example, Qingyu had spent 108 years in the second layer space of the Jianglan's realm. At this time, only a bit more than a year had passed in the immortal devil and demon realm. However, at that time, the divine tribulation would still arrive. Thus, Qingyu was not worthy of entering the second layer space of the Jianglan's realm. 2 months of quiet training. With Qingyu's current state of mind, quiet training for a long period of time was extremely easy. When he opened his eyes, it was already the day before Xing Yuan ascended to the divine realm. Outside of the gold punishment Lord Xing Yuan's palace, there were currently over 1,000 people gathered. The majority of these 1,000 people were from the gold punishment sect. There were also a few experts from the Black Flame sect and the White Profound sect. This group of people had gathered here precisely for the sake of seeing Xing Yuan off. At the front of the 1,000+ people were Qingyu, Wu Shan, Jumi and a dozen other people. Brother Xing Yuan, I've heard that the divine realm is relatively chaotic, and that the battles are extremely fierce. When you arrive in the divine realm, you must work hard in your training. Do not weaken the reputation of our Dark Star realm, said the Black Flame Lord Wu Shan to Xing Yuan while laughing. Although the gold punishment lords were powerful, they must return the gold punishment spiritual pearl to their clan before ascending. A gold punishment lord without the gold punishment spiritual pearl would only possess strength equivalent to an ordinary ascended Dark Star realm expert. He would not possess any advantage in the divine realm. In the future, he would have to rely on his own efforts to struggle. Haha, I still possess this bit of confidence. Xing Yuan laughed heartily. At the same time, he looked to Qingyu. Lu Xing, after I leave, you'll be the gold punishment lord. Remember, the gold punishment lord is the leader of the 3 great sovereigns. If that madman Wu Shan were to act arrogant toward you, you must teach him a lesson. Qingyu merely smiled. Wu Shan glared at Xing Yuan. Hey Xing Yuan, don't play with me. You've also seen the fight between this Lu Xing and Lu Lan. He's already this powerful without fusing with his inherited treasure. Once he fuses with it, I reckon that he'll be even stronger than you. For you to have him teach me a lesson is too excessive. Qingyu suddenly frowned. Is he about to ascend? Qingyu felt that a strange change had occurred in the entire cosmic space. Last time, when Cyan Emperor ascended, Qingyu's soul's level was still not high enough. Thus, he was unable to sense that slight change. However, the current Qingyu was able to clearly sense that slight change. Xing Yuan's expression gradually turned serious. He no longer joked around with the crowd. Xing Yuan swept his gaze across the crowd. With a light smile he said, Everyone, I am about to ascend. See you in the divine realm. See you in the divine realm. Wu Shan, Jumi, Qingyu, Baoyu, Wenfeng and the others all said. Xing Yuan's body slowly rose up. Misty starlight shot out from his body. At this moment, Xing Yuan possessed an aura that made people look up to him. Xing Yuan lightly smiled at the crowd. Immediately, the misty starlight around his body increased greatly. In an instant it covered his entire body. Like teleportation, Xing Yuan disappeared. He disappeared from the immortal devil and demon realm. Qin Yu slightly frowned. From the moment he sensed that Xing Yuan was about to ascend, Qin Yu had fused his soul with the entire universe. As for the principle behind ascension, Qin Yu also wanted to understand it. What principle is this? The phenomenon of ascension is very similar to teleportation and greater teleportation. It's also when one suddenly disappears and then reappears in another place. However, ascension is to directly appear in another space. What principle is this? Qin Yu was pondering unceasingly. However, Qin Yu was unable to obtain an answer to this question, even after pondering for half a day. Ascension, this could also be considered as a remarkable ability. However, it is a remarkable ability that belongs to the universe. If I am able to comprehend this remarkable ability, wouldn't I be able to easily travel between two spaces? Qin Yu sighed in his heart. If the people of the divine realm were to hear this, they would definitely laugh at Qin Yu for being too rampant. After all, even high-level heavenly deities were unable to easily travel between two spaces. The second day of Xing Yuan's ascension, only Qin Yu was present outside the entrance of the inheritance palace. Qin Yu raised his head to look at this ancient inheritance palace. On the ground beside the inheritance palace, there were a lot of dried branches and fallen leaves. Once I fuse with the gold punishment spiritual pearl, I will possess sufficient strength to open the bewitching god temple's artifacts palace. Qin Yu recalled the large amount of treasures in the artifacts palace. Those were all left behind by the master of the bewitching god temple, Cheho Yuan. Among them, the most precious was the bewitching god temple's core refined from the 9 purple origin flame beads. Your Majesty Lu Xing, you can come in. The guard elder's hoarse voice sounded. Qin Yu took a light breath, and then stepped into the inheritance palace. Once he entered the inheritance palace, Qin Yu's gaze was involuntarily cast toward the altar in the center. The 2 altars that he had seen before merely possessed the faint aura of an inherited treasure. However, today, Qin Yu discovered that the aura of this altar was over 100 times denser than before. Your Majesty Lu Xing, a dark and thin old man walked out from the corner. It was that guard elder. The guard elder pointed to the center of the altar with his withered yellow finger. Your Majesty Lu Xing, the gold punishment spiritual pearl is within the altar. In order to fuse with the gold punishment spiritual pearl, there are some things that you must pay attention to. Your Majesty Lu Xing, please listen carefully. Guard elder, please speak. Qin Yu said. At this moment, Qin Yu did not dare to be distracted in the slightest. That was because he knew that the refinement of Grand Miss spiritual treasures was extremely difficult. Sometimes, even if one's soul's level was high, it would still be useless. Of course, the higher the level of one's soul, the easier it would be. Your Majesty Lu Xing, in order for the gold punishment spiritual pearl to fuse with your body, you must first drip your blood on it to recognize it as your master. However, you must remember one thing. When you drip your blood on it, you must pour your gold force into the blood knight. Only then will the gold punishment spiritual pearl absorb it. Otherwise, it will not absorb it. The guard elder slowly said. Qin Yu nodded his head. Refining the gold punishment spiritual pearl was indeed somewhat difficult. Even dripping one's blood on it required the gold force to be infused into one's blood. In a moment, I will open the altar and release the gold punishment spiritual pearl. Your Majesty, please be at ease. The gold punishment spiritual pearl will not attack those who possess the gold force. After you successfully drip your blood on it, you can slowly fuse with the gold punishment spiritual pearl. The degree of fusion will depend on your body's cultivation, your gold force's cultivation, and your soul's cultivation. As the guard elder spoke, he walked up the steps of the altar. Qin Yu watched from the side. The guard elder walked onto the altar and shot out rays of golden energy from his hands. At the same time, Qin Yu sensed that the guard elder's body was emitting a dense aura of the gold punishment spiritual pearl. Finally, the guard elder slapped his palm onto a certain spot on the altar. Rumble! Immediately, the entire altar began to shake. Because of this, the inheritance palace began to shake as well. It was as if an earthquake had occurred. Xiao, A golden light suddenly soared into the sky from the center of the altar. It was the gold punishment spiritual pearl. Your Majesty Lu Xing. Hurry up and drip your blood on it to recognize it as your master. The guard elder immediately shouted through sound transmission. Qin Yu's feet moved. He once again appeared beside the gold punishment spiritual pearl. Furthermore, the space surrounding Qin Yu was like a swamp, trapping the gold punishment spiritual pearl. A drop of red blood that emitted a golden light fell onto the gold punishment spiritual pearl. The gold punishment spiritual pearl immediately stopped struggling. Like a sponge, it directly absorbed that drop of blood. Qin Yu couldn't help but feel a burst of joy in his heart. Success! This gold punishment spiritual pearl is mine. The gold punishment spiritual pearl directly assimilated into Qin Yu's body. Seeing all of this, the guard elder heaved a long sigh of relief. With a pale complexion, he nodded his head and said, Your Majesty Lu Xing, how much you are able to assimilate with the gold punishment spiritual pearl will depend on your Majesty's strength. Your Majesty, be at ease and assimilate with the gold punishment spiritual pearl. No one will come and disturb your Majesty. Qin Yu nodded his head. He immediately sat down cross-legged on a praying mat in the inheritance palace. He closed his eyes and began to quietly train. This is truly strange. Strange. This gold punishment spiritual pearl is actually only absorbing the gold force, and not other types of energy. When Qin Yu attempted to pour the 9 revolutions force into the gold punishment spiritual pearl, he was simply unable to assimilate it into the gold punishment spiritual pearl. After that, Qin Yu could only continue to pour the gold force into the gold punishment spiritual pearl. After the gold punishment spiritual pearl was infused to a certain degree, the gold punishment spiritual pearl began to revolve. At the same time, a golden liquid similar to mercury flowed out from the gold punishment spiritual pearl. Qin Yu's entire body's muscles, bones, etc. became like a dried-up river as they frantically devoured the golden liquid. As the golden liquid assimilated into Qin Yu's entire body's muscles and bones, Qin Yu felt that his entire body's muscles and bones seemed to have undergone a frightening evolution. With a thought, Qin Yu attempted to clench his right fist. Bang! Qin Yu's palm actually produced an explosion sound. Traces of spatial cracks appeared in the surroundings of his right fist. So powerful. My strength has increased by at least 10 times. Qin Yu was overwhelmed with shock. Although he was able to clearly sense that his muscles and bones had advanced by leaps and bounds, Qin Yu was still overwhelmed with shock at this sort of progress. It was no wonder that the Gold Punishment Lord was the leader of the 3 great sovereigns. What pure metal elemental energy! This sort of metal elemental energy is many times stronger than the metal elemental energy of an 18-star emperor. Qin Yu's finger was like a sword as it swallowed and spat out a sharp sword-like golden light. Wherever the finger light streaked past, traces of black cracks would appear in space. This time around, Qin Yu's degree of assimilation was much higher than that of the previous Gold Punishment Lords. That was because Qin Yu's soul's level was truly too high. It was several levels higher than that of ordinary Gold Punishment Lords. Thus, he would naturally be able to assimilate more with the Gold Punishment Spiritual Pearl. However, he was still unable to completely assimilate with the Gold Punishment Spiritual Pearl. If he were to completely assimilate with it, the Gold Punishment Spiritual Pearl would completely turn into a golden liquid. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.